Good afternoon, everybody. Wednesday afternoon, you know what that means. It's time for some Series E Apex Legends. My name is Jaso, here to be your host today as we jump right back into the action here with Season 6 of Series E Apex Legends. So welcome in, everybody. Excited to have you here and hope you are looking forward to some great games here tonight. Now, for those of you that are new, let's break down just how things work so we're all on the same page. Now, Series E is a professional esports open circuit that absolutely anyone can join across multiple different titles. We've got Guilty Gear Strive, Multiverses, and of course, Apex Legends. Now, the way that it works is players and teams come out, they compete in our open qualifiers, and the best of the best make it into Series E. Now, what does that mean for them? Well, players will get the opportunity to sign a contract, get sponsored by one of our partner brands, earn a monthly salary, and compete weekly for points and prize money. In Apex Legends, it's every Wednesday night against some of the best pros from all across North America. If you and your friends have further questions or want to know how to get in on the fun, head over to esportsarena.com today. Now, as I mentioned, typically it is against some of the top pro teams from all across North America that our partnered squads compete against every Wednesday. I'm talking TSM, Cloud9, NRG, and more. But due to just some scheduling stuff going on right now, a lot of those pro teams in scrims here today, getting ready for the start of Pro League here in just about 10 days. No worries there, though. We've got an open night competition here tonight, which means some of those up-and-coming squads, a lot of teams that you may know, maybe players that have been through Series E before, teams that have competed in open nights in prior seasons, and those teams in the Challenger circuit trying to take that step to the next level. A lot of them you will see here today competing against the partnered squads. We are, of course, in the back half of the season, so things are going to start to get really tight as our partnered squads are battling to hold on to their spots going into Season 7, because that overall leaderboard, very, very important to avoid qualifiers for Season 7. So keep an eye on our partnered squads and how they can perform here tonight. Of course, we'll continue to discuss how things continue to change in terms of the legend meta here in Season 16. Of course, things like the Catalyst cropping up more and more, teams switching up compositions based on the new class format here for Apex Legends in this season. So there'll be a ton of things to discuss on that front. Of course, the two voices you'll be hearing all night long throughout all of our games will be my good friends T Squared and Vicky Kitty. They'll be bringing you all of the action, and of course, I'll be here to break down replays, keep you up to date with what's going on our leaderboard all throughout tonight. But we're ready to go. We've got 6 games of action ahead of us here today, so let's kick off the fun with another night of Series E Apex Legends.
Almost big Matt Pickett vibes from back in early seasons of Series E. Now Slepon taking a lot of damage, and I mean,
the shots are starting to connect with what he does, and they're going down. Sung making the thing sang right there.
As he hopped back on with Nerf. Nerf looking like they want to close in another fight. Forcey with the shots, and goodbye to
so on this doorway and those windows, and they should be able to fight it out. Meanwhile, Intel getting into another battle, clear way across the map. Intel breaking.
Mike and Ike are getting aggressive. They got first knock. Actually, Z Davis once again with that charge rifle, but Bronzy.
No, Eccentric from above as well.
You see what Eccentric's up to. They're making the flank on down below. Touch P1, put down coming through. Now it's a 2-on-2 situation. Maybe a 2-on-1. It is a 2-on-1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Series E. It's Season 6, just like Asa saying. Season 7's around the corner, and we're in Season 16 of Apex Legends. Vicky, are you excited for Season 16? I know you've been grinding.
I have been grinding. I got griefed a bunch of times today, but that doesn't mean I'm still having fun here in Season 16. Team Deathmatch obviously being added in. We got those rotations coming in shortly. I know Control will be coming in soon. Gun Run. It's awesome. And we got the different classes now for our Legends. So far, it's been a very fun, refreshing season for me for Season 16, Tom.
So the question is if you're playing controller, do you have to play the controller area? I'm not quite sure how that really works, but one thing's for sure, and I thought that was a great point that Yesa made. There's going to be a lot of catalysts coming through, and if you've been paying attention to the meta, realistically, the two strongest legends that you could use in unison right now are going to be Seer and Catalyst, because you could see through the Catalyst wall with Seer ultimate. So if your opponents are on the opposite side of that Catalyst ult, and you have your Seer ults going as well, you're going to be able to just laser those players because you know exactly where they're going to be. A lot of nerfs, a lot of buffs happening all over the place. plays. I'm sure we're going to touch base on all of those as we go through, but it is our open night. Typically this is our pro night. Let's go ahead and look at the format for anyone that's new. If you've been in Series E Apex Legends, then you know exactly what that format is going to be. It's going to be your typical ALGS format that we have. It's going to be 12 points going in for a win and 1 point per kill, going all the way down to 0 points as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at the teams that we have here. Our partnered squads, those are the teams to really look out for, but I'm really glad that we have an open night, Vicky, because this is what Series E is all about. It's about making a name for yourself. Look at the team on the right, Team Glory. That is a scary squad.
Yeah, Team Glory. Godfire, by the way, our Brazilian squad that went over to LAN for the first playoffs over in London not too long ago. I mean, these are some exciting teams to watch, especially when it comes to our partnered squads too. I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to do against some of our other open squads. So it's going to be a good night tonight, Tom.
It's definitely going to be a good night. I mean, 2R1C is a team to look out for.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
No Name as well with Den Pride. I see a lot of people in here that are there's a lot of talented teams all across the board. Asurus with Dals, God of Gotti, and Pubski. They're always grinding it out. In terms of the partnered squads, who do you think is going to take the cake today in terms of points, Vicky?
You know what? I'm gonna have to say Mike and Ike. No bias, but they sent me a cute little care package out here with some awesome Mike and Ike treats that I've still been munching on. And so, you know what? When it comes about consistency, I would say Mike and Ike has been one of those squads to definitely keep your eyes on.
Mike and Ike definitely. MJ is an absolute monster on that Horizon, and even though Horizon had some changes, it's still a very viable team fighting composition that you could end up going for. I mean, we're seeing a lot of Valkyrie, Catalyst, and Seer, but what about Horizon, Catalyst, and Seer? I feel like that's something that could be really strong going forward. You could still infiltrate buildings, and you know, when you need a scan legend, Seer is definitely still the go-to. A lot of Bloodhound nerfs that happen. I saw Alberle was talking about on Twitter how he thinks that Bloodhound's like the ultimate playing on the edge type of legend, but realistically, when you go into that Beast of the Hunt and the scans are just as long as when you're outside of the ultimate, I just don't feel like it's as powerful as it used to be. I feel like the nerfs to the ultimate overall have been kind of hurting Bloodhound, and you see the pick rate kind of start to go down. The big question that I have is, if everybody didn't like the Seer meta, why are all the pros tweeting that Seer is so strong? Just think about that.
You know, it's because Seer has just been one of those characters that have been remaining the problem. And talking about Blood, and I'm glad that you bring it up, because when you scan, I call it a chicken. I know it's a white raven, but it's a dove, a chicken. You can call it what you want, but you get to get that reset on the scan when you do have that chicken in your line of sight. Team Intel, though, wasting no time out here. There's a squad that landed right in front of them. It looks like we're dropping hot off the rip for game one.
Yeah, Team Intel, really like how they've been able to improve overall. And it looks like we have an issue with one of our partner teams not getting into the lobby. We'll have to get clarification on that. It may even be a restart, so we'll have to see what the admins end up calling going forward, because the points are going to be extremely important for all of these partnered squads. Someone must have snuck in there and maybe took their spot, but Intel is popping off already. They picked up a couple kills, one on a Den Pride with the flush as well. Protectful with the Sentinel already picking up a kill too. So 2 players out of the 60 already done for.
Wondering to see how this is going to play out here with Team Intel having the high ground, already getting that knock. They already have the number advantage, and they're finding some of these shots here. 70, but he's only got one more bullet in that Sentinel. Yeah, he's got the alternator out, but with 2 other players on the other side of that bunker door, Glory are now making a way inside of this building instead, and they had purples to work with.
Love watching Fuse come to life here. Nice wingman shots there from Avex, and one of the Gears of War pros coming through, playing Apex, really showcasing what his talents are. On controller too. It's always nice, Vicky, when your controller players end up dropping an armor for you. And you have a third party coming in from Team No Hands, but the reset's already been had, and look how long they're taking to kind of creep up on this. Everyone's already going to be healing here, Vicky. They're not going to have an armor advantage, and they should be able to see him through the window. I'm shocked that no one spotted this player yet. Nice shots with the alternator. Tips too, more like tips toe, Vicky, as he makes his way forward and hits the flank coming in onto the enemy team. Clipped coming in with the alternator. Alternator so strong early game. Great nades there from Tips too. Like how this guy's playing. He's extremely sneaky.
Okay, we talk about the follow-up with the Missile Swarm too from the Valkyrie right now. Yeah, they lost out on Geezy, but they are playing beautifully around not only these grenade setups, but hand in hand right now, but he needs some help. You saw the shield back coming out real quick, and it was just a matter of time before No Hands now having to play through the knockdown shields, going right back and forth, ring around the Rosie before now the fourth party. What is this? The fifth party, actually? Now, if we count it properly from Rip, Godfire making their way in. Nice Arc Star toss there at the same time. They get the re-knock again, and they also get the crack onto the Loba.
Why don't we just have the entire game end here? This kind of feels like my rank games where I'm the first person to start a fight and then the teams just don't stop coming and they don't stop coming, as Godfire is going to be putting in some serious work with that third party. Great timing overall, and the nade, the Arc Star, was perfectly placed to make that look extremely easy. Now the question is there going to be a sixth party? There's just so much loot. This is where you need your Bloodhound to go and try to figure out exactly where the scans are going to come from. You also have Catalyst to lock down the climb ups over towards the side, so that's the value of the Catalyst. Not many doors to go and lock down here as we take a look at why so many teams were making their way over towards the southern side of the map. It's because that is where the zone is going to be ending. So a lot of teams starting to make the rotation coming in from Mirage, Staging, Harvester, all empty. Geyser, Frag, completely empty as well. And that west side looking a little bit congested as it typically does. That flank coming over from that tree side going into the choke is typically highly contested. A lot of teams will play underneath the stairs right there, and that's where you can see the pings.
And with the changes, too, got to talk about the controller class now. Caustic, Watson, Rampart, Catalyst. That's why you're also seeing so much Catalyst. Could get that beacon information to see where that next circle is going to be moving. Obviously, with the changes, we also see where we see Bloodhound, Crypto, Seer, and I believe it's Vantage now. You could also get the scan with the Recon to figure out who's within the area, which makes these third parties even scarier. And seeing how many squads wanted to duke it out in Countdown with such a southern circle. Well, I mean, you saw earlier in the map preview, Godfire may find themselves in another fight eventually. The circle is closing, but it is the first circle. Now we get to tune into Clinch Enjoyers as they're also going to start with their rotate away from Lava Siphon. I do believe we did see a Valkyrie Skyward Dive just take off right in front of them. So this area right in front of them by tree may be clear for right now, but this is also one of the teams not running the Sierra, also running the Bloodhound. So it has been interesting to see which of these teams have been opting to go for different variations, whether it be the Catalyst for the Caustic or the Caustic for Catalyst, or even the Bloodhound Sierra.
This is the stairs that we were talking about earlier. The value of Caustic really skyrockets inside of those tunnels, and if you can get inside, you're going to be in a very good spot. But that's a great point, Vicky. You know, you have Watson, you have a lot of these control type of legends, Caustic. The thing about Catalyst is that at the end game, she's extremely strong, right? Watson's going to get you to that end game, but when it comes to actually shutting players down, and when you use that in unison with Seer, it's just so darn good, and that's why you're seeing teams like Contested use this composition. TSM's using it. Everybody is really catching on to this, and it's making it a little bit more exciting for people to get used to, right? Because you did have Horizon coming in and being kind of that fill there, so you could go and play a little bit more aggressive. Catalyst is an aggressive control legend, though, because even if you're in the middle of a fight, you could still toss out 2 Qs on maybe each side of a rock or cut off some angles. And then the ultimate is extremely powerful as well, as you're seeing scouting happening left, right, and center. But you can expect Catalyst to really make it in there. And it's really interesting to see when certain legends end up becoming popular. Because right off the rip, Catalyst wasn't the most picked legend. It took a season to kind of settle in. And then people start realizing, oh, wow, this is really strong. Similar to Newcastle.
I like how you pointed that out, too, because another legend that I'm gonna expect to see used at least more often, but it won't be the mainstay comp that we will probably be seeing, especially in the Pro League, will probably be Loba. The utility that Loba provides, being able to also craft your own teammate's banner without putting yourself in the line of sight, and depending on if the mobile respawn is also cycled through for the weekly rotation for the crafting. So I actually do think the mobile respawn is in the crafter right now, so that would make legends like Loba pretty useful too in a situation where if you feel like you're putting yourself at risk or playing a lot more riskier for kills, you could actually take advantage of the fact that you could just craft your teammate's banner. So that also being an option is going to kind of go into the play of how some of these teams want to either babysit the crafter like we have seen before in the past, or what we're seeing right now actually just opting to utilize the crafter for more meds or even boost up your evil shield if you haven't found yourself in an early fight.
One of my favorite changes to Apex. I mean, this season just had so many of them. I mean, the lifeline changes were fantastic with the care drop coming down basically instantly. The items that you're getting inside of that drop are really good, but the crafting of the banners is just huge. I mean, for competitive, yes, but it makes your ranked experience so much more enjoyable, and it gives value to those support legends overall, as we do have a little bit of camp going on over towards the Crafter. It's not able to be able to get the kill for MJ, but he's got the Nemesis R301. We haven't had an opportunity to talk about the Nemesis yet. OP, Vicky, extremely OP. If you have not picked this gun up, go ahead and give it a try. The 2X is fantastic on it, probably my preferred scope as well. The faster you shoot it, the more bullets and faster TTK you're going to have. It's just insane once you get that thing fully ramped up.
You know, I don't call it the nemesis, I call it the problem, because that's exactly what it is. It's a problem, especially in my lobbies and everybody's lobbies, and that's why you're seeing so many of these players opt to use the nemesis. At first, when I was testing out the nemesis, I thought it was going to be very similar to a long to medium range gun. It's better like the R301 where you could do medium to close range, but the fire rate is insane. Like you were talking about, the more you use that fire rate, the faster it ramps up. And Godfire already getting the crack, now trying to close in the gap with the Bangalore smoke. Something else that we've been seeing too. I mean, the Bangalore has been obviously used since last season, where we saw a lot of circle keeping squads play around the circle to play a lot more aggressively. But with the Bloodhound and the Catalyst now being used up, not only do you disrupt their vision with the smoke and the Catalyst wall, but now you can also find different flanking angles like we're seeing Nelas do right now, as he's going to be able to back away from the other enemy Bangalore ult rolling in.
Yeah, the Rolling Thunder doesn't really connect, but it does force them off of the spot, and they do have an armor advantage on the Gunfire side. So No Name with the height advantage, playing to their head glitches as well, and that Catalyst wall just lasts so long. It feels like the thing never actually disappears, but you can see the value of the Beast of the Hunt. Even though you're not able to get the scans, you can still see the player outlines going through that wall, and with so many Catalysts inside of the lobby, it's almost like Recon Legends are being used in competitive, but it's not really being used as much in ranked. And I think that once people start picking up what the pro players are doing, they may end up kind of copying and mimicking what those compositions and what those play styles may be. The one problem that Godfire does have, and really won't be that big of an issue because it is an open night, is the rotations. Realistically, this is an aggressive play the edge composition. That's exactly what they're doing. They're looking for team fights, they're looking for weak players. That's exactly what they're going to be able to find right here. Two players' shields are going to be broken. Valkyrie using the jetpack to try to get out of there as fast as possible. And the gold mag Nemesis, that thing's just not going to stop shooting.
Ben is schmoving out here. Nobody could escape from his sights when he's got blood in the water to chase you down. And now the stragglers for the squad that they were originally able to pick that Valkyrie off actually love that decision from them. They're calling it off. They're backing away in time because there's another squad that they're trying to look out for. They're also trying to prioritize their rotation, it looked like. With this other squad being on the other side, they don't want to get gate kept. Looking at where the circle is going to be pulling, Asuras could just hold on to the high ground, continuously dominating the squad that's right below them. And then now, with the fourth party rolling in, this is why Godfire says, you know what, let's just take our time to rotate long, rotate right behind on the other side of Lava Siphon, so that way we're not the one that's going to get circle kept.
It's just zone 2, so this isn't going to eat their shields too badly. We'll be able to out-heal this zone as Pupski using the heart sensor to try to find exactly where the enemy players are going to be. And if he is able to locate these two above them, they're going to realize that actually two players from this team has dropped, and he's checking in front of him, not behind him. A decent amount of damage, 75 of his shields are going to be popped off. He does have a couple of shield batteries, though, and I believe he has his ultimate, too, so they should be a-okay, but this is not a good position to be in for these two teams because now that they've shot, third parties are going to come here very shortly. So unless they take this fight ASAP, I feel like they're both going to recognize the situation. Godfire was in the area. There was another team that they were trying to third party originally, so they have to back off. Team Mike and I could be in the area as well, as Aegon by AOC finds himself in a little bit of skirmish. And nice shots coming in from Orioles. And it looks like the Prowler is back, Vicky. It does so much damage, especially for these up-close controller players. And that is going to be all she wrote for this enemy team here very shortly. Imp Nation going down, and Orioles taking the kill lead with 4 overall.
And also utilizing the enemy Newcastle wall to hide behind instead. He came in like a Marvel character, coming in like a superhero right there. And Razor are now getting involved in this fight, but they have to look to their side. It's another squad trying to get involved. And I'm so glad that you brought up the Prowler. One of my personal favorite weapons that has also just been so utilized now this season, as it should. Such a good weapon, like you mentioned, in the hands especially of controller players. It's not just the Bolt that dominates in the hands of a player that it's using a controller, but it's also that Prowler. When you nail down those shots, you have such a high impact that one of your other teammates just follows up with one burst of the Nemesis.
This is the fight that we were looking at before when the flank came in over from the backhand side. They're going to start pushing inside of Lava Siphon. They leave over towards the double stack building, and it's God of Gotti still with the Havoc, putting in some serious work. He gets rid of the Catalyst Q. Shooting through the wall as well as Exotic Fantasy is going to actually find the first knock in this fight on Athalas. And it looks like they are able to turn this fight right back around, and the Prowler comes right back. Prowler Nemesis, the two guns that we were highlighting. What a combination coming in from Solidify. The Thirst coming through for the armor swap, and what a great turnaround coming in as they drop Asuras. Looked like, based on the shots that we were seeing and the plays that we were seeing from Pupsky and Squad, that they had that one on lock. Speak on lock, Godfire continuing to find another fight, this time onto Den Pride. Zone is going to be moving, so they have to make their way a little bit forward, and we've seen teams already run through this choke. This is Zone 3, so it is going to eat their shields pretty heavily, but it looks like they have the momentum that they need, plus the heals that they need to get around the corner. And right now, Godfire looks like this is the team to watch out for in terms of team fighting.
Yeah, and with 11 squads left, that's crazy to also talk about that combo. The Catalyst into Seer ult. Although the Catalyst wall prevents the scan characters from being able to utilize their tacticals right through on the other side of an enemy Catalyst wall, having that Seer ult doesn't negate that, so being able to just follow up with that is just beautiful, especially in the endgame. Nice arc star toss. These grenade tosses from Godfire since the very beginning have been next level, and he's got the Digi threat in his hands, been having to back away as the answer back with the other grenades from the enemy squad is coming right in.
Great counter right there from Trafora. It looks like they're just going to punch him right back. Close that door off. It looks like a gold knockdown res too, so this is going to get Nalus right back in. I believe they saw a gold knockdown, and we did. Got to reassess the situation here, reevaluate. I like this play. Back off. They're inside. You got to check for the third parties, and then you can make your way back into the building if you really necessarily need to. But you can see there's an enemy team on the opposite side of the bridge. So, Vicky, how do you end up playing this one? You don't really have a rotation legend here. You're going to have to fight your way forward. The only thing that you could realistically do, and you've already used your wall, is just smoke off two angles. And that's the problem. There's more than two angles that they need. And that's why the pings are going down. They're trying to find a safe spot. Really, the last thing you want to do is drop down to the low ground here. That's going to give even more angles to the enemy team. So they're going to have to play this very safe and smart.
This is just so difficult though, and that's why we're still gonna see Valkyrie used in high level comp, because Valkyrie being able to just help you with the Skyward Dive reposition without putting yourself in a pinch, eventually that wall is gonna go down, and Godfire is gonna be focused by both these squads. They need to start making moves as soon as possible. What are they going to do? Are they going to be forced to drop down into the low ground where they're going to be in the line of sight of not just the squad to their left who's pushing them, but the squad to their right? Now they're actually playing around the other side, but if they could force these two squads on the high ground to fight, which it looks like is actually doable with the third party moving in behind them, they can actually take advantage of the distraction.
I respect the fight happening at the exact time. The problem is if anyone gets knocked, they're going to be in a tough spot of getting the res, and it looks like they're going to go for it. The zone's starting to close. They're inside of a Seer ultimate as well. It could be their enemy on the opposite side. It's going to be Hockey's ult going down. Nasky as well. Americane Dolbe. I'm not quite sure where that team comp came from, what that team name is, but it looks like these guys are here to frag. I mean, you have three of the best players in EU all on one squad, and look at the positioning that they were able to take, Vicky. They knew that teams were going to have to fight their way over towards their side. That's what they've been waiting for the entire time. And you know if you see the wingman in the hands of someone, it's going to be Hockey's as Aegon by AOC eliminated. Knocks happening on the opposite side of the blue crates as well. As you can see, catalyst walls going up left and right. Contested eliminated as well, where all of a sudden where we go from 12 squads to 5 in the blink of an eye.
These nades have just been next level so far in this game, in this entire lobby. Hockey's also was able to entry frag originally right there with the Arc Star. Got not just the knock, but the finisher too. Now the squad behind them are going to be trying to take some shots at them. But also Tricky and Nasky and Hockey's out here. They didn't think we noticed, Tom, but I didn't see them originally in that team list. So now seeing them under a different team name real quick for our open night makes me really excited to see the talent level that we have in this lobby. Americani, they're just going to be able to hold the high ground currently, and they also predicted the circle from the very beginning. We saw them in the map preview at first, where this squad was originally making their quick rotation here, wasting no time, and with their loadout, it makes complete sense with the team comp as Razor on the other side. This squad was trying to take some shots at Hockey's and Nasky earlier, but now they're going to be able to take control over the outside of this eggshell with another squad. Looks like they're neighboring them on the right side.
And Razor's one of those teams that predicted the zone fairly well, and they're going to be in a great spot here. I'm not quite sure if anyone is interested in picking up this bow. It is going to be silent, but you have the 30-30, which is fairly strong with the gold mag. You have the devotion in the back pocket, so once you do lay that long-range poke down, you can switch on over. Now, the best spot to play is probably going to be directly underneath where these teams are, and that's where the ping is going down right now for Miles. Great heads-up play from him. But remember, when we were in the Horizon meta, you never would want to go and play low and clump up here. We're in a little bit of a different spot right now, plus you're going to be able to have the wall if you need it. The Catalyst Qs are going to prove very useful, and look at the safe cover that they have. They're directly in the middle of the zone. All the other teams are on the opposite side of them. One team is going to skyward dive and potentially take their old spot, but there is another playable spot on the backside of the ramp. That player is directly in the open. This should be free pickings there from Razor. Miles does connect onto one shot, now able to finish the player that got behind the wall, and he did use his Q, so he's not able to stop that heal overall. But they do have Relic in the sights. A couple more shots from Team Razor, and that's going to be all she wrote for this player behind the truck. A couple sky nades as well, as Hawkins is going to find one, Nasty going to find one as well. Two different fights taking place, which means Razor could push in, and that's exactly what they're going to do.
I can't believe that player is still alive, all honestly. He got away, and it's insane. Meanwhile, Nasky is getting a knock. He's finishing up right here. Razor wanted to get involved, so they're just going to leave that one player by themselves. See them not as a threat since it looked like a duo originally. Miles tries to take the shot with the Kraber, misses that first shot. Another one of their players are actually right behind them, maybe trying to get into a different position for a crossfire situation set up. But look at the way that they're playing through these little head glitches. They have to be careful. Closing in on this gap could literally spell doom with the Catalyst being on the other side too.
Miles is playing for first or third right here with that Kraber out, and you can see the rat is taking place on the backhand side of the map, and Miles gets aggressive and realizes, okay, I need to back off. We also have the zone here, so maybe we just play to our composition and play around this Catalyst Seer ultimate. Plus you can pick up any of the extra loot that's over towards these boxes. That's exactly what Team Razor is thinking. I like that. They were expecting the enemy team to be fairly weak, Vicky. They weren't weak at all. They had full shields. They had full health. They dominated in that team fight. When you come in for the third party, you want to at least find one player separated. They did. They found Nasky, but Nasky played that so smart, crouching behind the computers, not over-challenging, baiting out the Kraber shots, and playing extremely unpredictable. Hockey says, well, he stayed very disciplined on over towards the door. They didn't fall for the bait. They did not fall for the Kraber, but Miles is back for blood.
Let's see if he could land one of these shots right now. Clinch and Joyers finally get eliminated. It was Relic who was the rat. We didn't see the rat cam, but we knew that he was the last player alive for that squad. Now, the final two squads, it's going to be Razor versus Americani right now. See if them trying to wait for them to funnel outside these doors because they have no other choice. The Kraber shot landing 140. Miles wants to get into position, but he's getting a little greedy. Gets another Kraber shot. That's two cracks right now, but they'll still have enough time to pop the shield back. Meanwhile, Razor's going to have them in their line of sight once they cross the corner.
It's all about who uses their ults at the right time. Do they even have all of the utility that they need? There's the first catalyst wall, the second catalyst wall going down. Kraber still in hands of Miles, and those were two big shots. He really connects on them when he actually needs them. You can see one player trying to Valkyrie all over the place using the jetpack. Nasky trying to cover as the bait and switch is happening, but he's been left for dead alone. Hawkins is playing in between the two walls. He can't cross. He has to stay in between. Tunnel fights. I don't think I've seen this one quite yet. It's Washi in the 1v1. going up against the final player, and Aegon by AOC takes the win. What a game.
Aegon coming through out here, but also the very end with the 2 catalyst walls. I mean, if you guys haven't been watching scrims, welcome, because that's what it's been basically looking like out here with all the catalysts in the end game, in these lobbies. It's actually crazy to see that end game end up like that, where you're playing against 2 catalyst walls. Let's not forget, we also saw the prioritization with the Seer ult, with the ultimate accelerant. So little things like this make those end games extremely exciting, Tom.
Yeah, if you're claustrophobic, you definitely don't want to be in that end zone there. And it was actually the boys from EU playing under the tag Americana that took that one. It was very close. We couldn't really tell because how close that final team fight was. But what a job from both of those teams. A big cat and mouse game. You had the Kraber from Miles. It was exciting. And we're in a new meta now, so these fights are going to take place a little bit differently. And while the pro players are still in a really good spot in terms of making adjustments, they haven't really mastered how they want to play these fights. And that's why they're continuing to put in the practice. I'm excited to see game by game how they improve, how they learn, and end up mastering this new meta that we have, because we talked about those 3 legends, Vicky. It's kind of no coincidence that those 3 legends were both in the final circle.
Yeah, I'm not over what we saw between the 2 walls. Can you imagine being Nasky in that situation where you can't see, you're just shooting. You're shooting with the Prowler and you are going in between 2 different walls, taking a little bit of passive damage from the other wall, from the enemy catalyst, and then trying to figure out where your shots are going to be landing just for the clutch to come out at the very end too from your other teammates. That was pretty intense there. And as well as the fact that Seer's ult can allow you to see what's going on in between those walls are going to be allowing these other teams to have the advantage in those last team fights.
Yeah, I would have ended up walking through both walls just complaining, being, why am I slow? Why can't I see my screen? What is going on right here? But these guys handled it very smoothly. Another one that's going to handle it smoothly, that's Yeso back in the studio. Yeso, take it away.
Big first win there from Americani. Bit of a spectator bug as Aegon by AOC wasn't in the mix there at the end. It was Razor trying to take down some of the best players in EMEA. Tom and Vicky could both tell you that all of those players, very talented, wealth of experience. They've played in some of the biggest events we've seen in Apex Legends Esports. So that's going to be a tough test in that straight 3v3. Credit to Razor. That came down to the wire. And ultimately, it comes down to Washi going for that peek through the wall, hoping to maybe get that final shot, that last little tag, as I imagine Washi's getting the call out from his teammates, right? You know, one tap, this is a close kill, and it in fact was, but unfortunately the knock shield's there up to keep that player safe, and Washi goes down. So, you know, you could have maybe sat back and go for a bat and risk it there, but I don't hate the choice there from Washi playing off of the call. Had the opportunity, but the knock shields played around very, very well by Americani, and they end up grabbing the win here. Let's take a look at our Mobile One high performance moment here for game number 1, and I imagine it's going to be close to the finish. We got a good look at Miles playing with that Kraber, getting a couple of very key late shots. It unfortunately there wasn't enough, and it all started here with Nasky, as Vicky and T-Squared highlighted, playing aggressively in these walls, stepping forward and getting a lot of value with that Prowler, and then Hockey's doing much the same there with the R99, and you see Washi thinks about it. Maybe let's go for, you know, the shields here, see if we can stall this one out and win in the fight. Ultimately sees the player, elects to go for the shot, not quite able to land it though thanks to the knock shields, and it is Americani taking the victory. But again, I don't hate the decision there from Washi. That is such a fine line you're having to walk there, and ends up, you know, going for the shot here, and it isn't a bad call. Doesn't work out for Razor, but I have no problem with it myself. Let's take a look though now at our Mobile One leaderboard and see where those 2 teams as well as the rest of the lobby stand here with just 1 game in the books. Of course, things going to be fairly tight on that leaderboard, but Americani picking up 10 kills for themselves is a big performance. Important to note there, Aegon by AOC, while they didn't get the win, bit of a bug again there on the spectator side, did get a ton of KP. They end up with 18 points. They're in second place, and, you know, unfortunately for Razor getting no KP, they do get the 9 placement points there for that second place finish, but that is all. So still some work to be done. Aegon in a wonderful spot, but of course it's Americani Dolbe there up at the top of our leaderboard, and that's certainly a team you're going to want to keep your eyes on today all day long. They are going to be a problem in this lobby, so make sure So watch out for them. We're going to head to a quick break right now. When we come back, Vicky and T-Squared get you ready for game number 2.
Tyson boneless buffalo bites have that tasty kick of flavor, so they're perfect for any get-together. If there are any left when your guests arrive. Tyson Anytizers Chicken. More kicks of flavor, more smiling snackers, more to love. Tyson.
The EU team coming into Series Z and proving that they are going to be serious in this lobby. But we saw some really great stuff from some of our partnered teams, especially Aegon by AOC putting up some pretty good kills overall. T-Squared and Vicky Kitty bringing you the action. We're getting ready for game number 2. Vicky, some takeaways from game number 1. What do you think?
Lots of catalyst walls, and we're gonna expect to see a lot more coming through as well. I know we wrapped it up with that final play, but that was absolutely insane. Not only disrupting the vision, but we also saw some pretty early rotates from some of the squads that are still adjusting from not having a Valkyrie on their team, because we saw what happened to that team. I think it was Clinch Enjoyers that had to use the Skyward Dive and then separate at the very end. Unfortunately, they separated and they took the Hail Mary Skyward Dive, and they were immediately taken out after that, and they didn't get as many points as we saw teams like Aegon by AOC did with 18 points. So, you know, having to play around that crutch sometimes while we jump into game number 2 on World's Edge.
One of the teams that I think to watch out for, and we saw, and you highlighted them beforehand, was Godfire. Godfire, definitely a squad to look forward to. This is another 50-50 to watch out for. 2 really, really good teams, and this kind of started it all, Vicky. The thing about fighting at Countdown is there's so many different POIs that could come over here. Lava Fissures right there, landslides right there. You have Skyhook, which is a very popular spot to go and land, and immediately third party up on over towards the ramp where the 3 pills are. So Team Glory has to be careful. I mean, this is a very talented partnered team that they're going up against. It's a 2-on-2 situation right now, and we'll see who's going to walk away victorious from this fight very shortly.
And now Intel has the man advantage, though, after getting that one knock. Protectful just trying to play their corners here, trying to play around the other side. Looks like they're playing Ring Around the Rosie as well, but losing out on their other teammate means that the Fade is going in, and they're just going to be able to back away in time, but Intel is not giving up that space. They take care of Asura's here too, and the feed Asura's going down earlier. Intel just waiting to see what they're going to do instead, as Godfire, the other team that we saw get involved in this fight in the first game, are also making their way over here too.
Immediate third party, just like we saw from the previous game. There's not time to mess around. That's why you have to take that fight basically immediately. And what a knock! The 30-30 without the scope. One of the hardest weapons to go and shoot. But one worse, making it happen as Godfire comes in with the very timely third party. And now everybody from Team Intel is going to book it across the map. Maybe they'll come back and try to get this banner. I don't think Godfire is a team to really camp here. I think that, if anything, they're going to go and craft on the opposite side of Countdown and then make their way over towards the zone.
Hey, who knows? I didn't get to take a look and pay attention to their team comp, but if they got one of those support legends, and they could craft up that banner here too and get themselves a little Moby that is currently in the weekly rotations in the crafter. No Name also in another fight here on the southern side here. Also able to close in the gap, get a nice knock, even right through that thermite. It's fine to work the damage to get that knock once you already deal enough damage.
They had Caustic, Horizon, and Valkyrie, so I don't think they're going to be able to get the banners crafted, and that's why the power of Loba in certain situations like that is very good. And you can see Gyose says, you know what, my shots were nice, I'm going for the finisher. Get that armor reset onto Awoken One. Has to burn a little bit.
Beautiful right here for No Name. One of our squads actually rocking the Mad Maggie. It's also interesting to see how that third legend has been one of those flex mobility characters. Sometimes if it isn't the scan character, the Mad Maggie providing that wrecking ball so that way you could close in the gap and not only just disrupt the piece, but also find an opportunity to maybe close in the gap inside buildings that are already being secured there too. Godfire now wasting no time. They look like they went to chase down that last straggler from the team that they had originally got a knock from, but backing away to another squad that's actually on the other side right now. They got the scan on 2 enemies that are inside this building, and that means that Bin could get into position to actually sandwich them. Looks like they were maybe able to get the banner. This actually may be the same squad that they were originally trying to fully send it on.
Yeah, that could be Team Intel. They were able to find Protectful and finish him off, which is what Intel was able to start. But there goes the Horizon Black Hole. That's the Grav Lift as well. It's going to be a knock from Flinzar onto Worse. This could cause another third party in the vicinity. Scans coming out from Nayless, but I don't think they're going to be able to win this 2v1. Godfire's team fighting capabilities are just too darn good, and this is a very tough spot to try to get out of. There's not much cover to run away. You can't really use the buildings. The other thing you can realistically do is fight your way out, and that's what Team Intel is trying to do. This player's going absolutely nutty. He almost 3v1s everybody. It's going to be a healing situation. Black Era eliminated in your kill feed as well. Team Intel going down as well. Nice job from Icy trying to stay alive as long as possible, but Godfire in that 3v1 is just not going to lose. Unfortunately for Godfire, it doesn't seem like the third party is going to come anytime soon, as the final player from Glory is going to be taken down. I believe Protectful was able to get at least one member back, maybe get a res off throughout all of that, and now Glory goes out without any points, and I don't think they were able to get a Thirst as well. So that 50-50 on Countdown not really working out for them or Team Intel.
Ooh, let's talk about the change up from our next circle here. Remember the first game, we did have that very southern circle close to the southern building of launch site and the outside of the eggshell dome. Now we're moving all the way up to Climatizer. Sometimes the circle does pull towards the little train cart that's off to the right side of Climatizer, outside the fence line, where actually it looks like Razor's already made home right there. So sometimes we see it pull there, or it can even pull a little bit more to the south of that over the other smaller snake building. But with some of these squads already making the rotation, thinking about the fight that we just saw from Godfire, they're going to be rotating through Skyhook, where there's already 2 teams and then a third party waiting to happen from the squad rotating on the train tracks. So that's going to be a congested spot soon.
You can see the fight about to take place here very shortly on the edge of Skyhook. These were teams that potentially could have made their way over towards Countdown. It's a great point, Vicky, about the zone. And another team that's predicting the zone, just like they did in game number 1, is Team Razor. So heads up to them, and hats off to them, and big props, because that is not easy to do. Back-to-back games, picking a priority position, getting into a technical god spot. In this lobby, it's a little tough. I mean, you have half the teams looking like they want to fight and play the edge. The other half looks like they want to go and get busy. And speaking of getting busy, Contested immediately contests the choke, and they're going to be able to advance after getting the knock onto Exotic Fantasy. Would have loved to see them finish this player a little bit earlier so they could have got the armor swap there for Rails, but he's going to have to back off, use one of his batteries. They're going to loot the box. And in this instance, what do? Do you back off? Kind of bait the box? Maybe think that, all right, we're going to leave this, and you guys, as soon as you come get it, we're going to have that Seer passive right on top of you. But they are going to at least get 1 kill and 1 thirst. So nice job from Contested, setting up the bait, and that's the power of Seer in those type of situations.
And that's why you saw him holding back a little bit too, to get that information as well with the heartbeat sensor, to make sure that nobody was going to rotate around the other side of the rock right there. But one of our teams that performed very well, game number 1, Aegon by AOC, currently in a fight top of the rooftop. The Rolling Thunder dealing good amount of damage to Force his own friendly Rolling Thunder, but it's fine. He'll be able to restabilize. He's got the rest of his teammates right there, also popping shield bats. I like this different angle that Turns is taking, because it's right in the beautiful line of sight to help enable his teams to actually close in the gap here. They also used up their Seer ult, so this has been a pretty expensive fight for it to be a circle keeping fight team.
Orioles almost, he does get hit by the Mad Maggie ball. Doesn't do much damage to him. 25 overall. Catalyst wall is going to go down. Force taking a lot of damage. It's going to be answered right back. Orioles is 50 HP down throughout all this fight. Turns is getting inside as well. That's going to be Dead Pride going down. It's a 2v1. Turns is fairly weak throughout all of this. He's going to queue away and hit a battery because they see a third party is coming from the southern side of the map on the opposite side of the bridge over towards Lava Siphon. So a smart play there from Turns. But right now, you have to watch out, because this guy has the Prowler, and we've already seen him continually pop off. The res is going to happen. Turns is going to advance on this, but the res is going to go off. The Quiet is back now, and it's a 2v1. Battery being popped. Maybe Turns playing this a little bit too passive, allowing the enemy team to get back into it. Pops around the corner. He was playing Wraith previously, but it looks like there's 2 players, and it's just a knocked player on the roof. Aegon by AOC going down. It's a 2v1 technically there, and that situation not easy to do against a very solid partnered squad.
Turns did manage to force their heads to turn in a 360 direction the way that he slid off that rooftop over on that balcony. It was a nice try, but they are going to be able to come out on top as Americani, their squad that won game number 1, also looking to play the edge of the circle, while this squad is trying to restabilize after coming off from that previous fight. Hockey's losing out on his shield immediately, though, and I do, again, have to pinpoint the combination of Mad Maggie has been very interesting to see, between the Wrecking Ball play on the rooftop to now even sending out that tactical.
Nice original burst there from Nasky. You can see the power of the Nemesis. It was a 68 burst just from one shot. The 3x, very, very useful through this season and throughout all these situations, especially when you're playing on M and K. I feel like with that scope, the recoil is a little bit too much for the controller players to handle, but that's the mastery of controlling the recoil throughout all of this. And Nasky is not going to give up on the hunt. He has the gold helmet. They also have the wrecking ball to go and use the actual speed boost. And that's one of the things that's a little bit of a downfall there for Maggie. Anybody can go and use that speed boost, but Americani is going to back off, say, you know what, there was some loot at the bridge area. Maybe we'll just back off and get that. Round 2 is closing. We are going to need meds overall, and they'll take that fight just a little bit later.
Yeah, it's our speed boost now as we are able to try to see if we can close in the gap here. But now Americani can take all this loot. It's fine. They could take some of the circle damage. It's not going to be too much here for them to handle, but it is going to be a pretty long journey to that next circle. Again, if we could see maybe the preview, we noticed that the circle is going to be pulling all the way north towards Climatizer. Playing by the edge is another team, Imp Nation, and this is actually one of the teams rocking the Lova and the Watson Valkyrie. So they got the mobility, they got the bunker down control character out here, as well as the Loba, just in case one of them go down. They could craft one of those banners and they could get that teammate right back in. But the goal for a team comp like that is just to stay put. You got the black market for all the utilization that you need and predict where that end circle is going to be pulling.
Yeah, the best thing is when you yank some stuff out of the enemy boxes where they just got the kills and you're like, oh, well, I'll take that. I'll take the red armor. Or when someone leaves an armor on the ground as they try to charge up some extra armors, just take that one right from underneath their nose. Does a great job from production pulling up where this zone is going to go. And look at the positioning there from Razor, Vicky. They're able to get on over towards that northeast side of the zone. A lot of teams are going to have to start rotating from the west side. It's very congested over there. Team Mike and Ike is one of the teams making their way over through Epicenter, and you can see 2 extra teams directly to the right-hand side, another team over towards their south, and then the Americana EU boys making their way from south to north. They're going to meet a little bit of resistance over towards those train tracks.
Yeah, making their way downtown or maybe just around it for right now, but they could definitely get involved in a third party if they want to seek out the KP for it, but it can be difficult. You got 1 minute and 35 seconds, so you got some time, but some of these teams are already playing by the edge of the circle. You can see DewTube on the other southern side, a Skyward Dive now coming in as well from another team. It'd be crazy to see if this circle pulls way more towards the train track, so kind of Winter Express vibes, because that would be an open area circle, and it looks like this team is actually going to take that gamble early on with this rotate, take control of the inside of this cart, so that way they do work into the best of their team composition. The Watson, see the Jenny managed to come out right in time, but Americani trying to get extremely aggressive on the other side.
And that's why you don't take this that early. You're going to end up getting punished. Exactly what Americani is able to do. Imp Nation goes down. If you are going to take it, that's the composition that you want. You want to have the Watson, but right now they're just giving a free generator to the team that already took first place. Heads up rotation from our seasoned players here on our open night. Nemesis Prowler seems to be a vibe, Vicky. We're seeing multiple people use that one. Double burst weapons. What is this, Halo?
Getting PTSD moments here too. You can't even cross them in their line of sight. Notice how quick they were to burst them down with both those weapons. And I like how you highlighted it. That's why sometimes these early rotates aren't taken as early as you've seen right there. And that's what I was worried about. Yeah, you could have the Jenny up and you could try to settle down in there. But with the way that Americani is also coming out of a win in the first game, they're feeling the momentum. They're literally dancing out in the open while other teams around them on the outside of the circle are probably either trying to situate themselves on the high ground or even in an individual fight themselves.
It's a great point. Is when you're locking down an area like that, it's a big sign of weakness to turtle and not have a presence, because when you get into the lobby with sharks, they are going to smell blood in the water, and that's exactly what Nasky's doing right now. He's going and testing to find out where these players are coming from. As soon as he realizes that his team is under fire, they're going to end up coming right back. Seer Ultimate is going to get destroyed, and just based on that Seer Ultimate placement alone, you just feel confident in this fight, because it's a little bit of a misplay there. And these guys don't really make mistakes at this level. You can see 2 knocks going through, the shots looking clean, but that's where you want to place your Seer Ultimate, in a spot where it's not going to get shot at. And that is the Catalyst Seer combo. You can see exactly where that player is throughout the wall. You can't do anything in that situation when your Seer Ultimate is destroyed. The problem is now you got a Maggie Riot Drill directly on your back. Another Catalyst wall is going to end up going down too. This is not a good spot as Team No Name starting to push in. They're allowing them to heal just a little bit, You can see the nades are going to come through in from the window, but this is where the power of Seer is huge. They don't have a Seer. They only have a Maggie. It's going to be the first knock coming in with the Prowler. There goes the Thirst onto one player from Americani. It's going to be answered right back. A good flank coming in from Den Pride. Hockeys is going to go down. Nasky, the last player alive for the team, and I don't think he's going to be able to 2v1 this one as Americani, the winners from game number 1, go down in 9th place. A decent amount of KP, but they kind of started this fight, Vicky, and it's not going to end. You wanted the winner express vibes, and you are getting them on the bottom of this train track right outside of Epicenter.
Nobody is safe, and apparently neither is anybody in the line of sight of Wizard Coin with his juked up Mozambique and 16 bullets. That's all he needs right now in a dream to make this loadout work. I love how we've been talking about the Nemesis, the Prowler combo. We got Wizard Coin out here rocking the Flatline and the Mozambique combo, but they disengaged quickly when they saw the action going down right below their feet in the train tracks, and this is what we're talking about too, with some of these teams making their way towards where they're predicting where that next circle is going to be pulling. We can see in 30 seconds this circle is going to be closing, but the circle is still pulling more so towards that climatizer area. So a lot of these teams on this side of the southern circle are going to be gatekept by the squads that already have hype by climatizer.
Let's see what Chef Lemmy Cookman has. They are going to have to rotate very shortly, and they don't really have an opportunity to do so while they're getting shot at. So Lemmy Cook is going to go and find a little bit of safe haven. He does get the vertical clearance that he needs, and they are out of there, Vicky. It looks like there's another team skyward diving, and typically what you do is you use the first skyward dive to find out where enemies are getting shot from. So you can see there's a player on over towards the right-hand side. They're kind of mirroring where this squad went, and they realize that there's a little bit of a safe spot directly in front of them. While they're not in the zone, they're going to have to continue to foot it. They don't want to land blindly. Instead, they're going to land on the outside and look to third party. I love this veteran play here from Mike and Ike.
I love this. I love this because they didn't do what the other squad that took the skyward dive did, which is get involved in the middle of everything where you can see where there's only a sliver of cover with this train truck, and now they can get involved in the third party so they please with the other squad trying to take shots from behind them in another fight themselves. The beamage with the car gets that knock, could try to maybe get through this catalyst wall right here. You could see the wrecking ball also dealing enough damage for them to actually kind of close in that gap, but so many grenades also set buying them time while they try to reset. It's not going to be enough. Through the windows, through the cracks, down the punches, the clinch enjoyers get eliminated. Look, if you were to tell me that Apex Legends isn't a horror game, I mean, look at this right now. This is terrifying, as now the third party find opportunity to close in, to actually find an opportunity to third party.
Seer, Catalyst, Horizon. You have Bangalore in here. You also have a Maggie. So many different legends taking place throughout all of this fight. A nice job from Mike and Ike to try to stay alive inside, but they have lost out on MJ. No Name has lost out on Den Pride. You can see the queues happening for Catalyst. Bangalore smokes all over the place. The problem that they have right now is no Digi, and if I'm not mistaken, MJ had a Digi on his weapon as well, so they're going to be able to punish throughout all of this. Wizard Coin coming through with the ownage. No Name goes down. Mike and Ike continues to lock down this trailer. You have to be impressed in what they just did there, Vicky, between the skyward dive overall and then executing on that fight. Razor able to win their ones as well as they drop another open squad. PR Demons just down to a solo here, so it looks like it's going to be partnered team versus partnered squad coming up. It's Razor versus Mike and Ike. PR Demon on the way out here very shortly, and we're going to be a straight up 3-on-3.
Mike and Ike versus Razor. You gotta give some thanks over to Razor too. Involved in that fight, I did see some shots from the other side by that fight, also put in some pressure onto the squad that Mike and Ike was able to clear up. And with these rocks in between them and the open space beyond that, they want to prioritize the high ground. I like the attempt to try to get up this cliff, but it's gonna be difficult. They don't have a Bangalore, and why would they want to waste a wrecking ball if they even have it, since they used it in the last fight to close in the gap currently right now, when you could use it when the circle starts closing in, because they're already in that circle right now. So they just have to see how close they are to the middle before determining whether they want to use more of their utility. But MJ doesn't want to waste time. There goes the wrecking ball. The opening for MJ as he takes to the skies with the gravity lift to find the opportunity before landing right on top of that catalyst wall.
Great use of the lift there from MJ. No longer can you really shoot in that. Instead, you have to go with the old school lift and hit a battery to try to close the distance. I was expecting MJ to wait for his ultimate, but they found out one player was a little bit split. Two players are going to get fairly weak. That's Washi getting knocked originally. Let me Cookman down to 1 HP, and Mike and Ike ends up going absolutely nutty at the tail end of that fight. Wow, I'm so glad that we were on board with them throughout that entire process, from the skyward dive to slow playing it outside of the zone, footing it, going in for that third party, avoiding the third party, taking the straight up 3v3. So many positives there from Team Mike and Ike.
Yeah, I actually am so happy that our observers not only stayed on Mike and Ike, but we got to see for the first fight where they got to third party the two teams that were originally fighting by the outside of that train cart, to dominating the squad that won originally, taking their time in that fight to also restabilizing, to also being able to focus their attention to the fight happening closer to that next circle. And while that team was distracted with the fight, they were able to reposition and even take their time to find that split player off to the side before initiating, because that was the more difficult part in that 3v3 between our final two squads, was finding a way to close in that gap safely without the poking just continuously going through before that final circle closed in on them.
Yeah, shout out to Mike and Ike. Also, shout out to our observers and production team, because they're going nutty. Keeping up with all of that action is not easy, and we caught exactly what happened, all the way down to who the rat was in that final circle. Team Mike and Ike with a decent amount of kills. MJ just doing MJ things, the MVP from the previous season, and you could see why. He is not shy in terms of playing aggressive. He immediately swung over towards the left-hand side, found a player that was weak, and they continued to kind of stack on that damage, Vicky. While they didn't get that initial knock, that still opened things up, because once one player takes a lot of damage, your enemy, your teammates have to cover that angle, right? So that's going to end up weakening them. So it's just a constant tug of war of when are you going to get healthy and when can you actually fight back and take map control. So that's a great job of just owning the map and owning the moment there from Team Mike and Ike. And again, MJ just showing that Horizon is still a possibility in this type of meta. They were able to, again, play so many different layers and levels of Apex. That was fantastic. We're going to toss this one to Yeso for some further analysts. Take it away, Yeso.
I love Tom talking about MJ there. He and I were both really big fans of MJ all throughout the previous season, and MJ still maintaining a lot of that form here today. Bit of a different roster here for Mike and Ike this time around, but still largely the same MJ. But I will say, while that aggressive mentality, leaning on the W key, playing confidently, playing forward, has been the hallmark of what has made MJ such a staple here in Series E over the last couple of seasons. I think the nice thing that we saw was a bit of restraint at the right time in that game. It was a pretty quiet game from Mike and Ike up until that skyward dive, right? They had come in for the third party, cleaned up a couple of kills, and then were looking to reposition there for the late game. They take the skyward dive, and that first initial fight around that truck, you saw MJ and Mike and Ike taking their time a little bit, poking and prodding at that team, because you saw MJ went for multiple different peeks through the window on the side of that truck, just looking to get the damage, but not going all out until they felt confident that they had done everything they needed to do. They had whittled down the health bars. They had given themselves a really solid position of advantage to go aggressive, and as soon as they did, they wipe out the fight and take the win. And then they did a great job of stalling afterward, right? Because then another team wants to come in and third party them, try and clean them up while they're weak, and MJ with the gravity lift in the door and the rest of the team putting damage there through the windows are able to stall long enough for them to absolutely just dismantle No Name in that fight. And of course that then rolls into the finish to the game and the win for Mike and Ike. So again, obviously MJ very good on that W key, playing aggressively, but knowing when to rein things in just a little bit, and it certainly showed in that win for Mike and Ike. Let's take a look though at one of the best plays from this game with our Mobile One high performance moment, and I imagine it's going to be a look at Mike and Ike, and it is this fight. And you can see, look, initial peek from MJ, knock, great, catalyst wall is down, but they're still poking and prodding, still waiting. You see MJ says, okay, I'm going to hit this bat, back off of the grenades. They're throwing out all their utility. Let's just bait that utility, make them use those resources. Then goes in for the peek here on the Seer. Doesn't get the one clip, right? Doesn't get the knock initially, but knows, hey, we've done everything we've needed. We've gotten the one knock. We've gotten out a ton of utility. Now I have that Seer essentially one shot. Now we can push. The first knock through, and then the patience from Mike and Ike. They bide their time. They draw out their resources, and as soon as they know that they've gotten all of that utility, got all those abilities on cooldown, get this beam on the Seer, it's go time. Let's push in. One knock, turns into two, turns into the win for Mike and Ike. So well played from MJ and co in that one. Let's take a look at our Mobile One leaderboard and see where everybody stands. Of course, coming into game number 2, it was Americani that was at the top, but it's actually PR Demons jumping up there. Mike and Ike in third. PR Demons, of course, we saw them ratting things out at the end of the game. Big performance from them to jump up to the top of our leaderboard. Americani in second place with 31 points. I think we may actually have a bug on that leaderboard because I see PR Demons on there twice. So I think may have to check that out on the back end, may have a bit of a bug in our score recording. So we'll check back in with that one in a little bit, get a more confirmed answer on how that leaderboard stands out for all of you. Right now, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, it's our last game on World's Edge before we head over to Storm Point. Vicky and T-Squared will have all the action for you when we come back.
When the chicken is this crispy and this tasty, it doesn't matter what else is for dinner. Tyson crispy strips are so delicious, they'll be your favorite part of every meal. More crispy chicken, more family faves, more to love. Tyson.
Two games down, 4 games remaining, and the final game on World's Edge is coming up here very shortly. T-Squared and Vicky Kitty bringing you the action. We've seen some pretty interesting circles on the opposite sides of the map too. Vicky, I know you're a big fan of that.
Yeah, I love circle diversity. I once had to cast a series where it was 3 climatizer zones, but not today. We got a dome circle so far, and now we got a northern circle closer to climatizer, but it's not 2 times here. And we got our final 3rd game now going onto World's Edge before transitioning over to Storm Point. Mike and Ike, though, taking control, taking first place, 14 KP to their name as well, with their team comp very aggressive. The Mad Maggie, Horizon, and Valkyrie prioritizing not just mobility, but making sure they play to their strengths with the way that they were able to play that final game, where we actually saw their point of view the entire time.
You technically have double rotations coming through, and then you always have someone that can get the high ground, and I think that's something that people kind of undervalue with Horizon. But it's also interesting because Horizon's not a very popular pick. You can kind of catch people off guard with Horizon right now because no one's expecting the lift to come up, and no one's really expecting the black holes, and especially when MJ has mastered Horizon, it's nice to see him stay the course and continue to play this legend and continue to make it work. While he's not going to be going up the lifts and 150ing and one clipping people anymore, he still understands how to play, especially playing inside of the nerfs that happen too. So still a very strong legend, and you can see why. I like their composition. The value of Valkyrie cannot be undersold right there, as that Skyward dive, the final Skyward dive to go and land that third party, was huge. But execution was the key word there, Vicky, because any single time that they had an opportunity, they were able to capitalize on that. Not only that, they were making their own opportunities.
Yeah, and it's countering the more passive comp where you want to bunker down with the Catalyst. Unfortunately, this circle did pull towards an open area. The only cover was the natural landform of the rocks that team was able to play around with. Razor, though, you saw with the Catalyst wall up after being called out, you can only play around natural cover for so long when you don't have a building to bunker down in, and then you have a very aggressive comp neighboring you, trying to contest you on the opposite end. And Mike and Ike just played that perfectly to their strength. And I like how you highlight MJ, because that was the entry fragger which started the entire play. They saw one mistake being done by Team Razor, and they fully were able to capitalize off of that, not just by trying to beam on top of the gravity lift, but repositioning towards an off angle to then enable the rest of Mike and Ike's teammates to then go over to the right side, so that way they could try to find a pinching spot on that team of Razor who was on top of that rock.
There was no hesitation. That was the key thing too, where as soon as that opportunity came, they took that opportunity, because if they let the other angle get taken, if the players from Razor are able to get on top of the rock and kind of shoot down, if MJ doesn't hit his shots there and doesn't execute at a high level, they end up losing that fight 1000%, because MJ swings out into the very open, and he's able to do that and immediately single out a player. And that's what you're going to recognize at this type of level of Apex, where if you go and try to take an off angle, granted, you don't want all three players sitting shoulder to shoulder. It doesn't really make sense. You need someone to kind of focus and take the focus off and be an entry fragger, just like you were talking about, Vicky. At the same time, if you separate too far, if you put yourself at an angle where you're making your move and they catch you in the middle of your move, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get punished. So unfortunate timing there for Team Razor, but realistically just great plays coming in from Team Mike and Ike. And Razor can't be too upset, because that's back-to-back games they found themselves towards the tail end of the game. They're picking the zones, they're playing it the right way. Yeah, they're not picking up a ton of KP, but do you realistically, when you're playing the zone that long, a lot of times you're playing the edge, picking up kills, and then making your way in. So Razor's got to feel good right now, and I feel like these are the two partner teams that have really started to step things up. On the other hand, a team like Intel, who's dealing with a very skilled team, a very skilled open team, almost of all three pros, they have a 50-50 that we're going to be catching up with here on Countdown very shortly after we hop on board with our winners from Game 2, Mike and Ike. And not only is it a 50-50 that's taking place, there's third and fourth parties that are coming in, Godfire specifically flying in within the first probably minute of the game for that third party.
Yeah, it's like 25, 25, 25 essentially at that point there too. I mean, I don't know, not the math adding up, but it's the fact that so many other teams have those early rotation points from Skyhooks, from Trials, from Landslide that could get involved. I know you mentioned that earlier, and it's important because that's why we're seeing so much action happening over in Countdown. And with this being the final game on World's Edge, you know, you could have Team Intel try to make a comeback on Stormpoint, but then at that point, you've also denied yourself the first 3 games to make a turn in your own gameplay for the overall results for the end of the night.
The Nemesis is definitely the go-to right now for a lot of our players, and he finds a purple mag, Vicky, so that's big. Speaking of Godfire, they find themselves in a fight. This is going to be over towards the Skyhook side. Remember that we said that this is a very popular rotation going in from Skyhook to Countdown. It looks like they're not going to get a contest, probably over towards Countdown. Maybe one of our teams ended up leaving that area so they could go and pick up points. And again, it wasn't working out for either one of them. I think that there has to be some sort of, GA for how you're going to end up playing this one, because once you end up just griefing 2 of your games, it's very hard to get first place and try to walk away with that cash. But Godfire making this fight look easy, as they're going to be able to drop the team that landed over towards the northern side of Skyhook. Armor swaps happening here, and the smokes happening as well, as another taking place over towards Dome. This is Aegon by AOC. Force is going to try to do whatever he can to avoid the lava. The ground is lava, Force. It literally is. Don't go into there. You're going to end up losing a decent amount of your HP. What do you think of this team composition, though?
I think it's interesting because you have the fuse, obviously, with the grenades, so that way you could put in some extra pressure. You get intel off of his ult, too. But then at the same time, you have that intel from the Seer, and then turns closing in the gap, not only with the smokes, but also to help the rotation on their team, which would be one of the only things I would say is lackluster here, because fuse isn't going to help you close in that gap, and neither is Seer. But at least with the smoke grenades, you could use that as makeshift cover to instead close in that gap for your team. It could be tricky, but it's obviously worked out for Aegon by AOC. The last 2 games, I'm not too sure if Force was still on the fuse or if this is just a changed up pick, because we have been seeing the Mad Maggie throughout 2 different teams, I believe, in this lobby. I don't have the legend stats up currently right now, but this is interesting to see how they're trying to play this, because this could also allow them to successfully circle keep squads and to deter squads from bunkering down inside of the buildings with the Catalyst too, because you have the barrage of grenades instead that you could utilize for your fuse.
Nice knock and finish there. It's going to be the Mozambique from turns on to 2 Slick. 2 more members from the enemy team are going to remain inside of Dome. And nice shots from Orioles with the Scout. I mean, the Scout and 30-30 are just so tough to use when you don't have any type of sight, and they're able to locate where Coach Saber is, get that immediate knock, and a 3v1. Most likely not going to work out for the 925ers, representing where they're from. And unfortunately for them, they are going to go out in 19th place. Team No Name in the area. Looks like they want to get busy with a third party as well. R9 Nemesis Gold Mag. We've seen the gold mags on Nemesis numerous times over here. That's going to be Turns getting his shields broken somehow, some way, able to survive, getting that extra movement speed boost from the double time passive, and that ends up paying huge dividends for Turns.
The Nemesis scares me here, T. It's terrifying. What a strong weapon. I know it eats up ammo like nothing, but I mean, that's every energy weapon, basically. And just seeing the impact it has per burst as it gets faster and faster is even more terrifying. And Aegon by AOC, after losing out on their shield and being able to at least restabilize with these small shield cells, manages to turn away, and with the rest of the squad, they're just opting to go onto the higher ground, try to loot up some more of this building space, and also try to prioritize their rotation before turning into our other squad here, Americani, who looks like they're in a squad fight themselves with another team that's inside this building.
I don't know if it's Hockey's or if it's the heirloom, but whenever you watch this guy move, it just looks like he's moving faster than everybody else, as they're going to trap this team inside of the building over towards staging. They've already blown off 1 door. They've blown off half of another one. They do not have a Catalyst, which is another one of those beautiful things about Catalyst, especially in competitive play, is once you get your doors griefed, you're just able to get them back up and fortify those. As now Team Bruh, they need to bro on out of here, because they are getting chased by one of our teams inside of the top 3, and the team that won game number 1 is scary situation over here. At this point, you're just hoping that they get shot in the back as they're chasing you.
Yeah, they are trying to run for the hills right now here, too, as we tune into different squads, taking different angles here. Tries to go in for the beamage with the wingman. The follow-up, too, with the Nemesis. Asuras getting that first knock onto Hockey's. He did not see it coming, but with the Catalyst wall going up, maybe buys in some extra time to at least have the opportunity to get that res. And this is what we're talking about with these different compositions. Horizon still allowing so much utility vertically, which is important in a game like Apex Legends. They get right back onto the the high ground, tries to beat this opposing team after they got the initial knock to then maintain the positional advantage that they originally had. They said, okay, there was too much space between us and that squad. We couldn't finish off that knock player because of the wall that came up from the catalyst. So instead, let's just reposition here. They get scanned by a survey beacon. Don't think that's from the squad that they're looking at right now. That actually could be from a squad that's nearby here. Just wondering because I don't see it in the mini map. But this is a good position for Azurus to hold because they still have the high ground.
And if you're new to this meta, all you got to do is check your map and you'll find out where the exact scan and what beacon was used. You can only use the beacon once. You can't just continually scan over and over again. That's not how that one works. It's not like the map room or anything along those lines. But I feel like there was a little bit, I don't want to nitpick the gameplay from Azurus because they are a fantastic team, but there was a little bit of a hesitation there, Vicky, after the knock. I felt like they threw the Q a little bit too late. There was a little bit of a miscommunication on when they wanted to go in. And because of that, they weren't able to capitalize on the knock. They weren't able to finish off one of the strongest players and teams inside of the lobby. All three players immediately escaped on over towards Landslide.
Would have been absolutely huge here for them, but they just decided to call it off. They wanted to play safe. And now they lost on their opportunity to try to at least get that one knocked player, finalize that point. Now they're just going to be able to hang out on the high ground here. You can see some damage. Maybe they were able to finish off at least one player on the other side here. I do see that there was one player that was finished off from Pubsky's point of view here too. But looking at the other squad that's now starting to rotate from Thermal, as Hockey's managed to also rotate towards Mirage. They actually may have a second chance now, Americani, to actually go in for her third party after rotating out of staging. That would be something else here, and I know that Azurus would feel a type of way when they couldn't finish off that one player, or if they got that player right back in with a respawn beacon. But looking at where the circle is also going to be pulling, with so much action happening on the south side, you could only imagine Toxic Savage, they're also going to hearing this fight after they get right past that tunnel, and they could also get involved to gatekeep from Landslide, or they can scan that beacon themselves if they're running the proper composition to be able to get that information.
Such an exciting zone here, as we've had three completely different zones. I know that you like the diversity, Vicky. That's what you're going to be able to see here. Nice shots coming in from Iwaku. 2R1C putting in some serious damage. The seer scan goes off, but it doesn't stop the heal, and it's not going to stop the momentum. As you can see, the catalyst wall going down. Seer ults coming in from both sides. Iarka ends up throwing his, and that is the power of the seer in these instances. Just look at those player outlines, almost like they're in caster view as the push is going to happen, and UV ends up going down. UPX Pain goes down as well. They're going to be able to shoot down some of these catalyst Qs to try to clear out a little bit of that area to get inside, to get the loot that they just deserved after getting those two thirsts as well. Intel on the opposite side of Countdown looking like they want some action, as the PR Demons end up getting eliminated in 17th place. Now, when we look at this composition, Vicky, what do you think about Caustic right now? If you are the lone Caustic in the lobby, you are going to be a little bit stronger compared to if there's multiple Caustics. Do you think Caustic is stronger than Catalyst?
I feel like it varies depending on how the team feels comfortable, because the one thing that we did have an issue with in the last season with a lot of our pro league teams in the ALGS, a lot of the pros were talking about what's meta, Seer this, Seer that, and a lot of teams still opting to use Bloodhound instead of Seer with the Bangalore comp. But the one answer I always got from different players, even asking Monsoon personally, was play who you feel comfortable with. And it could be that Jet feels comfortable with the Caustic. Now, that's not to say I approve, you know, it is Caustic at the end of the day. We've got to give some probing out here to our Caustic players, but it's also great when you have a Booker down character in general to maybe not only settle down, but if there's no cryptos in your lobby, why not take the opportunity to utilize a Caustic here? Because it doesn't look like we've had the grieving that the crypto EMP comes in as
no
the
way they live.
Dive. They actually survive. I was expecting that to get canceled. Effect falls incredibly low. Hawkins is not taking a chunk of damage, even though he only has a shield left. They gotta split apart, but Effect goes down at the very
wingman.
end. Wow, the wing bro coming in clutch.
Out of all the weapons, that is so difficult to hit. Granted, it is the gold winger, so that's going to be a pretty solid knock coming in from Static. They're going to go and toss the Bangalore ultimate. Sometimes your own Bangalore ult can grief you. I'm not really sure why people toss that one while they're trying to advance. They are looking for the knock and try to figure out exactly what's happening in that type of instance, but it does stop your push overall, and maybe you could end up using it to try to disengage for a third party. But either way, just a nasty shot through the air, and we were wondering if they're going to be able to survive on the Americana side. Well, they do, but just losing out on one player. Unfortunately, it is their Valkyrie, so their rotations are going to be a little bit grief. Now, zone number 3 going to start closing here very soon. A lot of squads still remaining. Sentinel in the hands of Kenny. They're locking down this area, trying to play the safe cover in between the rocks. It's not that bad of a spot, Vicky, even though it is in the middle. You can see there's a decent amount of natural cover.
Yeah, they could also go for 2 wide rotates, so they please, depending on the action that they already have information of. Nice little senti shot right there before closing in the gap, just bunkering down. Not want to settle down here, though, because not only do you have a third party coming in from behind you, but this is also not in the circle. Oh, Kenny didn't see them. He looked behind briefly, didn't heal up, and gets taken down by the third party, only leaving Static up alive for Impregnation. Can he get away is the question.
I don't think Kenny realized that he took 75 damage there, Vicky. I think that he was just under the assumption that he was full health because he hit that Sentinel shot for 70 and just peeked briefly. There's no way you think that you're going to get out-traded right there. Instead, that's exactly what ended up happening. They do have the banner to go for, but Nasky's going to end up backing off here. And I think this is the smart play. It's too difficult to go and push this. There's already been a lot of action that has happened. Plus, you're able to get that information from Hockeys on how many players effectively are in the area. So that's going to be the wall going down for Nasty, cutting off the angles, trying to save Hockeys as well. They did get close to grabbing that banner, but unfortunately, they're going to end up playing this one out as a duo. Where do they go, though? A lot of real estate already taken. The bottom of Lava Siphon is not an ideal situation. Very rarely do you end up pulling a win out from down there unless you have a horizon. So they're going to have to figure out exactly what the play is going to be. Can they get into maybe one of these donut buildings and lock down both of the doors for Catalyst? That would be the ideal situation for Americani.
Yeah, Horizon or even a Valkyrie. We saw Nick Merckx pull some crazy plays in this situation before back in the Challenger circuit back in last year, and it was a crazy play, but Americani don't have their Valk effects banner timed out, and they don't have a support character to actually get them back up with the replicator. Not even if you would be able to get the replicator at this point too, with so many squads just in the middle of the rotation on the southern point, and there's still 14 squads left. They can at least try to get some loot with this squad actually giving up that space. No name in this fight. With so much noise happening here, this was actually the green light for Americani to know that they could just backtrack and rotate back around in this direction after already using their own catalyst wall. So they'll have some time and some distractions with this fight happening over here before they make their rotate and maybe try to scoop up some kills themselves.
Look at the placement of the Catalyst Q there, Vicky, too. It's eating a lot of the corner of the rotation, but the ball where you shoot the Catalyst Q is not shootable. It's almost like a perfectly placed Watson fence is going down as the Maggie Wrecking Ball is going to go down. Razor finding some kills in your kill feed as multiple fights are taking place, but we're going to stay on board with No Name as they collapse on over towards the side of Countdown. Arc Stars in hand, nicely placed so he can go around for the flank. No one closing the door, and Elo, they're going to open that one right up and get the immediate knock onto Clipped. Heals are going to go down. But speaking of going down, one player drops, almost 2 players dropped as the battery was hit. They're stuck in the middle of the Seer ultimate, not the spot that you want to be. As Turns coming in for the third party from Aegon by AOC. Americani with the fourth party. A little bit of style coming in with the parkour for Nasky. Hits with the PK, but it's only for a 9. And unfortunately for him, it's Turns with the creeping barrage. The Bangalore ultimate to go and steal that knock away from Nasky.
Nasky, he went for the movement, but then didn't land the PK shots. That was unfortunate. I felt that in my soul here, but you know what? At least he could restabilize it as a duo. They are still killing it from the low ground right now as Glory also playing this as a duo. They did manage to get Eclipse banner, but now playing in the line of sight of not only just one squad right in front of them, but probably another squad on the other side of Countdown here off to the right. So as Protectful manages to restabilize, they decide to call it off, try to see where this other duo is playing from right underneath them, because with the Seer, they have that information.
And they somehow lived throughout this situation. They were the team that was landing Countdown originally contesting Team Intel. Now they find themselves still back in Countdown. Vicky, have they even left this area throughout 3 games is the real question. As Americani is going to share some resources. Really unfortunate there from Nasky. Vicky, we saw the wall bounce. Everything looks so smooth. But the famous 9 damage PK shot. You hate to see it as Team Razor is going to take another God spot. Look at this spot. It's perfect.
Oh, and this is fantastic too with the barrage of grenades that they're sending down. That's going to be a lot of damage, but the creeping barrage now as the answer back, finding a nice little cheeky spot inside one of the pillboxes to avoid getting damaged by the rolling barrage. You can see with the smoke grenades though that spot is able to get out of trouble, and Razor are now fixated on their attention with the fight happening on the rooftop to see if they can steal any other kills. Went from 14 to 9 in that one circle right now. Mike and Ike get eliminated. Chaku also popping off, taking care of Kicks. Now 9 squads left as 2 R1C currently now just down to a duo.
Asura went down. Americana ended up going down. So many teams were dropped throughout all of that. I believe we also saw maybe Mike and Ike was eliminated. Team Bra goes down. Glory eliminated. The teams dropping left and right as the push coming in from Team Intel. They were getting griefed early on, but now they are the griefers as they're starting to push in, getting the finishes on the knocks that they originally started. They have to move over towards the zone in about 60 seconds, but that kill feed just lit up like Christmas as you can see Team Intel getting inside the boxes, getting their resources, focusing on where the move is going to take place. I'm not quite sure if they have Flinzar's Skyward Dive. You would think that they originally didn't use that to get the rotation in, but you never know. Flinzar does have that. So Vicky, what is the play here? Are they going to try to foot it and make their way past a couple of these teams? We could see from the player outlines the best option most likely is to take to the air and try to find out what is going to be safe. Razor in another great position 3 games in a row.
And they also know that there's that duo that's right underneath them too. So the question also remains as, do you want this KP or are you going to prioritize your rotation into the circle, which is going to be pretty difficult with the squads that are already inside that building that is right next to Countdown from Skyhook that has the high ground. It's not in that next circle, but they will allow themselves to take some shots at the other squads that are forced to funnel outside of Countdown. Intel taking to the skies now with the Skyward Dive. Trials is taken. That building off to the right is taken. Godfire's on the other rooftop. Everybody is taking shots at Flinzar, and he gets taken down. Nobody shot any other member of Intel but Flinzar. That's unfortunate, but at least with this fence line, they'll have some natural cover. This is actually very convenient considering the fact that they're also out of the line of sight of the squad that is on the high ground right behind them, but there she goes as the box gets flown out of portion, and Flinzar now is just a box. He just teleported into a literal box. They take care of him, and Icy is also able to take care of another person on the other side. It's going to be Nayless from Godfire getting taken down.
Black Era goes out in 6th place, turns, picking up kills. He takes over that kill lead. The Mastiff connecting for Icy. He's got ice in his veins as he pushes in onto 2 players. They had the initial knock, but it's not going to be enough because of the gold knockdown shield res as Razor is going to try to capitalize on that. They were over towards the high ground. Godfire fairly weak. They still haven't fully reset. Nellis gets knocked, gets thirsted as well. You also have another team on the outskirts trying to 4th party this fight as the spikes are going to connect onto Godfire. It's a one-on-one for Miles, and he was doing it with the 30-30 this time. He's going to follow up with some close range fighting. Turns was a rat throughout all of this. Gets a nasty armor swap. Potentially wins his ones over towards the side, but Aegon by AOC eliminated in 3rd place, and now it's a 3-on-1. Washi doing whatever he can to use the knockdown shields, but 2R1C. They have the flanks coming in from both sides, and they are going to take game number 3. An absolute bloodbath outside of Skyhook.
That was insane right there. So much fighting happening right with just the rock lip providing the extra cover. Aegon also pretty consistent, still getting another top 3 situation out here with 2R1C also coming in clutch right there from that game. The final game that we're going to be having on World's Edge before moving on to Storm Point.
What a game. I mean, there was so much action when we saw, 12 squads drop down to like 7. Then we went from 7 almost immediately down to 1. We saw some great plays, great positioning from Team Razor again. Turns really turning up there for Aegon by AOC. He picked up a lot of kills as a solo. You almost thought that his entire team was up, but we saw him ratting over towards the bottom side of Countdown, and you got to give him credit. I mean, he almost hit that fantastic armor swap mid-fight. It's like he had it on the ground. He didn't even have to look down to go inside of the box. So a lot of heads-up plays from a lot of players, but it's 2R, 1C coming out on top overall. Let's see how many kills they had, because it was a little bit of slow coming in from their point of view, and a lot of kills ended up kind of going towards other places. I mean, there was a lot of fighting happening for Team Intel. We saw players getting picked out of the sky. 2 players that game, Vicky, flying in the air that just got absolutely ripped.
And maybe that's going to be the bookmark for a lot of these Valk squads. That's why it's interesting to see how some of these Valk squads are going to be playing for the late game, because that's where Valk is basically off the table. That's why Catalyst is so powerful, because she's useful throughout the entire course of the game, whereas Valkyrie's kit basically gets cut in half at the late game because it's not as useful as it would be in the early to middle stages. All right, I'm going to toss it over to Ye, so I want to hear his thoughts breaking down our final game here on World's Edge. Take it away.
2R1C there with a nice victory to close out the first half. Uchako and Hiraka, my buddy Zephyr, a couple of his favorite players there from EMEA, and coming through with a victory here to close out the first half. So that's 2 W's there for the EMEA representatives. Of course, Americani getting game 1 and 2R1C there with game 3. Let's take a look, though, at our Mobile One high performance moment here for our final game on World's Edge. Of course, we're headed over to Storm Point here momentarily. So let's pull up that Mobile One high performance moment here and take a look. And it's going to be this late game. Of course, we got to see Intel holding this spot for quite a little while. That unfortunate skyward dive with one of their members going down, and they weren't able to get them back up, put them in a tough spot. But 2R1C able to clean up that kill. They knock out Aegon by AOC, who get into the top 3, and then it's the aggressive push here. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about seeing someone charge rifling at melee range to finish off a game. There's a part of me, and let's be clear, I'm a charge rifle abuser. I'll use it. I'm on my G7 Scout, you know, kick right now, but I will do it. But I feel like just a little part of me dies seeing someone walk up and just beam with a charge rifle, hip fired at about 2 feet away. But it is what get 2R1C the win here, the cleanup, and they get another win for EMEA here on the day. We'll have to see if they and Americani can keep that rolling into the second half. If our Mobile One leaderboard is good to go, I believe they sorted out a couple of the hiccups on the back end. Shout out to our production staff and everybody working behind the scenes. Tio is doing great work. So let's take a quick look at that Mobile One leaderboard here to see where everybody stands. We did have that little bug that had PR Demons at the top. I can confirm that it actually just was Americani that were in first place at 31 points, with Razor in second, I believe, going into that. But Razor now at 41 take over first place. So Americani not getting it done there in game number 3, and that means they fall out of that first place spot. Meanwhile, 2R1C right on their heels at 29 points, and Mike and Ike as well inside of that top 5 at 25. Godfire, you also see how them going out in that Mobile One high performance moment. They're up in the mix, tied with Mike and Ike there for 5th place. So a very tight competition here through 3 games means it's going to be really fun in the back half of the day. We're going to head to, though, a quick break right now. As we go, do want to remind you, of course, if you want to pick up products from any of our partners and continue to support everything we're doing here at Series E, make sure to head over to walmart.com/esports arena today. You can pick up some mic and Ike's, maybe you need a new Intel processor, maybe some peripherals from our friends at Razer, and more. Again, all over at walmart.com/esports arena. Let's head to a break. When we come back, we're headed to Storm Point.
For over a decade, players have created a thriving culture of competition and creativity around our games. From clutch plays with friends to unforgettable moments in esports to amazing creations that have blown our minds, our community has continually taken Riot Games to new heights. Today, we're proud to invite the Xbox community into that world. We're bringing our biggest PC and mobile games to Game Pass. Subscribers will unlock every champion on League and Wild Rift, all Valorant agents, select cards in Legends of Runeterra, and little legends in Teamfight Tactics. And that's just the start. Thank you for coming on this journey with us, and welcome to Riot Games.
Home sweet home.
KDA, should we show them how we do it every day?
Kali got good, Kali go good, Kali don't stop, Kali don't stop, Kali got the job, Kali got the work. 뜨거워 언제나 don't get burned. 넘쳐 흘러물 든 a buffet, 죽여주잖아 like a buffet. 누가 감히 on my hotbed, 문 열지 마 that's a rock day. 당겨봐 your mark 'cause I'm better than. 필요 없는 시험들 다 보내. But all of my numbers are talking bang. 부르마 본 message monopoly. 눈종이 돌리나 물건이 필요 없대 너네들이만 내 맘을 거 get it go get it go get it go 미션 눈을 못대 못해 그래 너도 get it 'cause I got it different. All I'll ever know is life upon the throne. 시작하면 끝을 보는 거야. You want more? No, I got it so deep down. You look like you could use some more. No, I got it, never running low. Yeah, I got it. You know I got it like all day, all the time. Never giving less, and it's how it'll stay. You know I got it like all day, all the time. No, I got it so deep down. You look like you could use some more. No, I got it, never running low. Yeah, I got it more than enough, set it up and away. You know I got it like all day, all the time. Less, and it's how it'll stay. You know I got it like all day, all the time.
World's Edge, it's out of here. Storm Point, it's NT Squared and Vicky bringing you the action. 3 games down, 3 more remaining. We got Rocco making an appearance in the background, and we saw some really, really awesome gameplay on World's Edge. I'm looking forward to Storm Point, and I really think that Catalyst is going to be even more powerful and useful here.
Yes, I agree. This is going to be interesting because I haven't been able to keep up with scrims as much. I've been usually tuning into scrims when it's happening on World's Edge, but now as we move over to Storm Point, how are these comps going to match up against the squads that are running more aggressive compositions? We have seen variations of the Mad Maggie, the Bangalore, the Bloodhound. Now, obviously, we've been seeing the combination of the Catalyst and Seer for all the right reasons. I mean, the Seer ult being able to highlight enemies through the Catalyst wall. You're no longer playing blind through the Catalyst wall. You're able to actually see exactly where all the other enemy players are when they're actually blocked up by the vision on the other side of that wall. So it's just a lot. Bunkering down to reinforce those doors, creating your own doors. How is that going to pair up now as we transition to this next map?
Yeah, and a lot of times you think that there's a lot of doors in World's Edge, which there are, but where the end zones kind of go for, I feel like on Storm Point, Catalyst is really, really strong in these certain situations. And I feel like when you need to go and cross in these open areas, that's where Catalyst is going to be useful with the wall too. So when you think about Caustic doesn't seem like a legend that is like a Storm Point type of legend. I feel like when you say Watson, yeah, you can own areas with defenses, but Catalyst in terms of these control legends really feels like she has something special on this map specifically. So we'll see exactly what everyone elects to play. I liked how Turns was able to pop off on Bangalore. He switched from Wraith on over to Bangalore, was the kill leader for quite some time. Really helped out for Aegon AOC, who seemed to be struggling in points the first 2 games. They were able to pick up a decent placement and a decent amount of KP overall. In terms of the most impressive team, though, besides the win that Mike and Ike had, was Team Razor. In terms of their positioning, they were consistently getting inside of the end circles. They were putting themselves in great positions to win the games. They weren't able to take a dub from the first 3 games, but if they could keep that momentum going into Storm Point, I feel like they'll be very high up on the leaderboard.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how also some of the early 50-50 contentions are going to play out. We saw what happened with Team Intel in the first 2 games. They were able to come out on top in that 3rd game because we saw what happened to the 3rd and 4th parties that were rolling in to Countdown earlier on, find themselves in a fight in the early game on that game 3 in Skyhook. So what 50-50s are we also going to be seeing before we dive into Storm Point is my question too.
Mill. I really hope it's at Mill. That is just the most fun place to fight in Storm Point. You get those middle bins with the goated armors, and then you can kind of play the roofs. Always a really good spot to go and fight. But we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of different areas in POIs. We could see some 50-50s off of the rip. We saw Intel going up against one of our really solid teams. I believe it was it No Hands, or what was that squad name? I can't really remember exactly what it was, but No Name, Team No Name, I believe it is. So that's easy. They don't have a team name. Okay, so that's why I can't think of it.
No name, no manos out here. We have bruh. I like the names of our teams that we got out here for tonight's open. It's been a good time and a very good night for our partner squads too. Gotta highlight the way that Team Razor has still been consistent even in that game 3, consistently in that top 3 like they worked for game 1 and for game 2. And Mike and Ike as well, taking that game number 2 with 24 points in total for that one game. But Americani still stands on top, and can that consistency stay alive going into game number 4?
Godfire, I like how they've been playing. They are in 6th place with 25 points. They're going to be landing over towards the fish farm areas. Pings are going down like there's going to be enemy players over here, but it looks like he's just going for the loot. And speaking of loot, get that gold mag on the R301 immediately. Even 8, it's tough to pick which shotgun is best. It really just kind of depends on what you're good at, and I think that's one of the comfort things that you were talking about earlier, especially when you're talking about Monsoon and which legend to play. Which shotgun are you the most comfortable with? I like the EVA 8. I feel like it's the more forgiving shotgun out of all of the options, right? The PK, you can see Nasky, he hit that 9. The EVA 8, because it's rate of fire, especially with a solid bolt on it, just ends up being that much better because of the fact that you do have a little bit of margin for error.
Definitely agree on that because you have more opportunities right there with the EVA 8. Also, I saw on the feed that it looked like Americani had lost out an effect from falling. Not too sure what happened there, or if that was close to Lightning Rod. It looks like it was actually one of those southern buildings by the armory here. But Asuras is the one that was in that fight, as they are on the other side of this wall. Tries to delete that knockdown shield, little cheeky knockdown shield positioning right there, right through the doors, but Asuras is able to restabilize.
Can't lose a team to a player, or you can't lose a team fight to a team that lost a player from falling. That would be the worst case scenario, as Asuras is looking to regroup. We'll wonder if they got the banner for Americani. It looks like they are going to hit that grab lift and get out of there immediately. Somehow Effects banner gets grabbed, but Nasky's doesn't. You know, Hockey's, I guess we know who you prefer on this squad.
The instigation. I see you, Tom. You know, you gotta say what it is. As Aegon by AOC gets eliminated, not having the best time this time around on Storm Point the way that they were having on World's Edge. Razor also coming out on top with a good amount of loot after cleaning up 3 of those kills. 18 squads left already in this lobby. But a very strange start for some of our top-heavy teams right now. Americani just down to that one straggler who's looking to see if he could res effect in the process. I would have loved to seen how that played out on landing, because it looked like effect just died on landing. It could have been that he slid off that one side of lightning rod by the gravity cannon where he just slipped off. And sometimes, you know what, it happens out here. So I was wondering, you know, how do you fall in Storm Point? But that is probably one of the only places you could actually fall off the map. So looking at where the circle is going to be pulling, though, if Hawkeyes gets that opportunity, he's got a clear shot, unless that squad that originally pushed him just ends up pushing in that direction again. But with a lot of these teams in the middle of their rotate, we can see that the circle is going to be pulling towards that middle area between Launchpad and that choke point where Antenna is, where we usually see TSM hold on to that building on the north side of Antenna, where they try to get themselves out of the fray for any squads that try to rotate through Jurassic Park.
Wasn't he playing Valkyrie too, if I'm not mistaken, Vic? Isn't that like a double oopsies because you can fly around even if you are falling off the map, you can get right back on. But we'll let that one slide, as they've had a fantastic day so far. Godfire now looking to pick up some more damage. They immediately got out of Mirage because the block was hot, but now Team Intel looks to capitalize on their knocks that they did. They also got a broken shield on the Seer too, so it looks like Icy's going to take on over towards the high ground. We're seeing more Horizon here, and this is against another partnered squad, Team Razor, losing out on Washi. Not ideal for Team Razor because they've been playing the end games just so well, getting into these final circles almost all of the games here so far on our open night. Thanks for joining us if you just are, and hey, you guys can sign up too whenever you have an opportunity to. Check out the Esports Arena Twitter at Esports Arena. There's going to be a lot of updates on there. We posted the link to register for today, and if you missed that one, well, maybe you're going to be able to get in next week if there's another open night.
Always so nice to see new faces out here creating waves in the competitive Apex community. Look at this, double shields broken with the charge rifle. I feel like, Tom, you feel like a charge rifle enthusiast. I could just see it right now. Razor flying right through. You know what? I don't blame you though. It's the Evo, the Evo Shield Charge 3000. And Razor got beamed by it, so they're just trying to restabilize. And unfortunately, they also were unable to get Washi's van.
I'm also a 30-30 enthusiast. I just feel like it depends on which legend you're playing. Like, if I'm playing Wraith, I'm going to go like R99 PK. I'm a wingman enthusiast as well. My wingman has been looking extremely sexy. You would know that, Vicky, if you would stop declining my invites.
You know what? I'm gonna start spamming you now. You've just signed your death warrant right now here too. I'm gonna just throw your games. I know you love Pathfinder out here. I see you've been grinding through Diamond. Razor now also just having to play this as a duo on the high ground, making it look like my lobbies in comp here. Sometimes you just got to work with what you got, but with that 30-30, they were able to take some shots early, like you mentioned before, and it's a matter of looking at not just the squad that's going to be rotating on this side, but the squads that could take to the skies, actually, like we just saw right there, that could actually get right behind them if they find an opportunity to prioritize the skyward dive through that choke point that's off to the side from where Razor is.
Godfire continues to impress, Vicky, and I feel like if they can have a solid game, they are going to skyrocket in that leaderboard, already sitting in 6th place. The team on your screen right now, you can see in the bottom left-hand side, number 1 with 44 points, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Now, this team has been really grinding. I mean, Blitz, Washi, Miles, you also have Borton, who is on the squad. These guys are playing non-stop right now. They've been playing together. They've been working on their game, and it's really showing. I mean, it's also another opportunity when a new season comes out. It's an opportunity to kind of, brush off any negativity that your team may have. I'm not saying that they did, but there's that option. There's also an opportunity to make adjustments and kind of put yourself at the same level as these other squads, because every new season requires a new set of practice, as you can see Godfire continuing to heat up on the edge of the zone.
We talk about consistency and just the ability to overcome what is thrown at you. Godfire has been one of those teams. Again, a team that didn't perform to their best ability over at LAN in London just recently, still opting to go to see what they need to do differently so that way they could work on what they have to work on. Americani also circle keeping this squad right now after hearing them try to third party the original fight. Americani are down to a duo, losing out on Nasky, and he was ready with the wingman wingman, landing those 2 shots, literally leaving him 1. What's the play right here, too? When you're at the number disadvantage, they want to try to send it forward. They got the information on the evil shield, too, and since he's low, they know that with the circle taking away some extra damage, that's just extra pressure that they could allow themselves to take advantage of.
Yeah, yeet. That guy just absolutely flew in as the fortified door goes down, and also Effect is going to... All right, so he wasn't playing Valkyrie. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. He was on Catalyst, totally my bad, and let's see if he can make up for it now. He looks like he's playing a little bit angry.
He's got to right now. This is the retaliation after what went down earlier on in their POI by Lightning Rod, grenades, rather the Rolling Thunder finding its way to roll in. Not going to hit anybody here, but did separate Hockey's and Effect just a little bit before Effect managed to go right back in, but he gets melted. It's the Nemesis, and it's Godfire. They stayed here a lot longer than I was expecting them. Yeah, they got the entry shots with the wingman, but it's the fact that they still had enough time with the Catalyst wall, barricading the door to restabilize immediately, yet Hockey's and Effect still stayed longer than I was expecting them to in that moment.
See, I'm all for like hot sauce on your eggs or like ketchup or, you know, maybe you like weird stuff. You dip your Mike and Ike's or your Tyson chicken into weird stuff. You know what I'm not down for? The 2x on the wingman. I'm just not okay with it. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. I cannot hit my shots. Effect, you're a real one for trying to land shots with that one, but unfortunately, like you said, they are just down to a duo. Naski's respawn banner has timed out, and it's now up to Hockey's to try to do something for his squad. We've seen some great rap moments so far. Turns in the previous game on Bangalore was able to do something. Plus on Seer, you're going to be able to get that heart sensor and be able to figure out exactly if you are getting flanked or not, as Team Intel's back in business. They did get knocked a little bit earlier, but they are now starting to heat up and have all 3 players with purple shields. That's a huge deal in zone number 2, plus the charge rifle in the hands of Icy should be able to get red for a squad.
And the build-up too. You know what? World's Edge was just the starting frames for them, because now they are trying to cook something up here on Storm Point, and they went from being one of our last placing squads overall, I believe it was after game 2, to now jumping up to 12th with 10 points and still climbing. Look at this. They got 3 KP already this game alone. Black Era in the feed also get eliminated. Wizard Coin popping off. 17 squads still left, and Icy is on the other side here on top of this building on the 2nd floor, trying to see what he could do differently. Instead of the charge rifle, he's decided to opt to pick up that wingman.
One of the things that you're going to start noticing too, Vicky, is certain people need to use different weapons. If you are, you know, having 2 Nemesis players on your team, it's not really going to work out, because look at the lack of energy ammo that's going to happen between your 3 teammates. So it starts to make the conversation of what's the most comfortable weapon loadout for each player. And, you know, if there is 1 Nemesis player on your team, that's a very likely scenario that we're going to run into. One person maybe with a long-range weapon like the charge rifle, 30-30, Scout, Sentinel is viable, longbow inside of the care package is something that you can end up using too. But you're going to have long range, medium range, up close, whether that's an R9, PK, whatever that, you know, type of comfort pick for you is. That's what we're going to start seeing. It's going to be comfort picks in Legends. It's going to be what's in the meta. There's so much diversity in terms of what you're able to use. It goes to show you how balanced Apex Legends is. Apex Legends really is, as you're going to see Icy taking some serious damage. That's from Kick's Flatline, which we haven't seen much Flatline today. Still a very viable weapon overall. And Team Bruh, they are just throwing out over here on Team Intel. All 3 members go down right next to Imp Nation. And I believe Intel was able to squeeze some decent KP out. Vicky, you mentioned 3 KP. I don't believe they were going to pick up any more. That is not what they were looking for. They were just starting to heat up.
I don't know if they tunnel vision at the end of that fight. I mean, we saw a lot of dedication and utility used at the very end between Icy sacrificing himself to use that black hole on top of the gravity lift where he was getting beamed into the caustic Nox grenade on the rooftop where everybody from Raw just jumped down. So after taking control over not just Icy, but that other player, they were just able to fully send it forward and then close out that fight versus Intel. Now they see another fight happening right to their left, and they're trying to see whether they want to actually fully extend here or if they want to play passively. They don't have the information that PR Demons are literally hiding with just a sliver of health with just one player alive. It's the Seer who can't get away in time. The Crossfire coming in, and look at who it is. It's our squad that won the last game on World's Edge. It's 2R1C.
There's heating up, and then there's absolute boiling, and that's what 2R1C is right now. They are just on fire. Going in and putting in some serious work in the previous game, and now they've jumped all the way up to second place. This is a phenomenal performance already. They've eliminated 2 out of the 6 squads, Vicky. A third of the squads eliminated have been this team right here, and they're locking things down. Contested gets eliminated by Glory. This is a squad that I feel like is another team to watch out for. Glory and Godfire, the 2 teams that start with G, have so much potential. They just have not gotten the momentum that they need, whether that was the 50-50s that they were fighting Team Intel against, and then Godfire would go and third party that, or if it's the team fight's not necessarily going their way where they lose a player early. This is the most healthy we've seen them so far, and it's going to be on Stormpoint.
And they're also playing the edge right there, too. Looking at their comp, it definitely complements it, but wondering what their next move is going to be if they're looking to take even more fights with now the ring closing into behind their backs. Mike and Ike, another team that has been playing around the edge a bit here, too. Wizard Coin, we saw earlier in the feed, was popping off with the Mad Maggie. It looks like it's a consistent factor here going on from World's Edge to Stormpoint with the same composition.
What's cool here is Razor had a lot of options if they had 3 players, but I like that they've elected to pick a little bit of a safer spot, plus use the Trident just in case, as Blitz ends up getting eliminated. 2R1C is just dominating so far here on Stormpoint. The rest of the lobby needs to be careful because these guys mean business. It's going to be Waku with the Wingman car combination. The 71 headshot across the map. Perfectly placed beginning shot there. Got the red dot on there too, so it's going to have some extra precision when he's looking for the enemies across the map. Tosses out a couple of Qs just in case anyone wants to drop over from the high ground, but back to the point about Team Razor as they end up getting eliminated, and it looks like the fight continues actually as M-Works is going to get knocked, and then 925ers, so back-to-back teams getting eliminated virtually in the same position as the res ends up coming on to solidify. What a job there from the Owl Babas, I guess. O0 Babos.
Again, it's the names out here in this lobby that have been quite enjoyable to see so far out here too. And even with the gamer tag, Exotic Fantasy, he is definitely coming out fantasizing about winning that fight.
Exotic Fantasy.
Gotta put some emphasis. Mike and Ike also get taken out. They get cleaned up by Glory. And with so many fights happening on the outside of their windows, they can take some warning shots to at least those squads to let them know, hey, we're still here. We're stuck in the middle, though, right now. And even if they form their way outside of this building, they're going to be in the line of sight of 2 different squads. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. No Name also just hiding behind this Catalyst Wog. It's only up to Den Pride, which, he says, never mind. That was the biggest nope I've ever seen. What chances are you going to take right now? He's still alive, but just for a little bit before another squad finally takes him out. No Name get eliminated, but that was the biggest turnaround after exiting out of the Catalyst Wall. That's a horror story waiting to happen.
Love the way that Thorfinn is playing here. I mean, the Prowler burst was phenomenal. The nade was perfect. A little bit of head glitch coming around the corner, and nice job using the knockdown shield as well, but it's just not enough. 2R1C winners from the previous game end up going out in 8th place, and if you're going to emphasize Exotic Fantasy, I'm going to say, oh yeah, brother.
Bruh, as we tune into bro right now, he's got the RE45 in the hands of them. And we know how strong that RE45 goes. Not only does it go burr, but it basically acts as a 4th player on your squad with the amount of impact that weapon has. Kicks falls incredibly low. You have to look through the windows, and another squad that maybe wants to take some shots at you, find that opportunity. You don't have a Catalyst, though, and that's a change up from the other squads that are running the Catalyst, that are inside these buildings, because that could put you at a disadvantage. So one thing you do have are the smoke grenades and kicks being on the Seer, not only with the heartbeat sensor, but with that Seer ult could leave a big impact to try to counteract the Catalyst wall into Seer ult for some of these team comps.
What a fun end zone that we have here, and it's a great point, Vicky. The RE45 goes absolutely nutty in situations like this. It can basically win games, especially when utilized throughout that smoke like you were talking about. Charge rifle still being in play here. It's definitely viable in this circle through the window. No hands getting eliminated in 7th place. Hockey's still alive. Is going to be able to find a knock with the R301 onto Godfire. I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to get that thirst because Godfire should be able to recover and get the res. Hockey's, if I am not mistaken, is not playing with his entire team here. Naski's, his banner went out. He also had effect, so Hockey's could be playing as a solo. That Catalyst taking a ton of damage. Vem keeping his head on a swivel, covering every single angle here. And this is where you have to start thinking about your rotations. A lot of different options here. You have Valkyrie if you want to take to the sky. You have the smokes if you want to go and try to get aggressive on the enemy team or smoke off angles to make your way a little bit forward. The first rotation happening from the team on the opposite side of the building adjacent to them. Them pinging that on over towards his teammates, trying to use the smoke to his advantage with the digi threat he was able to find inside of the care package. The R9 just doesn't do the damage that you're hoping for in that type of range, so he's looking for something a little bit closer. Continues to go with the red dot instead of the 2x2, which I completely respect. The recoil on that is a little bit too high for the R9, especially with how fast the rate of fire is. But with 10 seconds left, Vicky, they have to do something. They've gathered all the information that they need. It's time to make a move.
And they also were able to see that there is a player out in the distance that is low too, and with the RE45 having the digi, this could allow them to also find a way to close in the gap here. But there's this squad that's inside the building that will have line of sight over Bruh if they decide to rotate on the outside. So I like this option right now. Instead of just going on the outskirts or just going on top of the roof, they find this squad, they get 102, 2 broken players, and they finally get the knock. The Catalyst wall going up right now, which will allow Cakes to not only save his Seer ult, but wait for it when they have to rotate into the circle. Use this team as a distraction for them to out-rotate them, and also watch out behind them while another fight is happening.
That was a smart move, bruh. I love the way that they played that. Getting up on top of the roof. Being the last team to rotate in. Protectful doing whatever he can to try to stay alive. The knockdown shield being used. But Glory ends up going out. Babos goes out as well. We're down to our final 2 teams. It's going to be Asuras on the opposite side looking for their first win. Nemesis, PK. It's a gold Nemesis to boot throughout all of that. We saw Thales originally. He was playing on Horizon. Switches on over to Valkyrie here for Stormpoint is so important because Stormpoint is known for gatekeeping in situations like this. But keep in mind, all of these smokes aren't going to be as useful as you're hoping for because there is an RE45 in play. It's exactly what's happening right now as the flanks are going down. It's 2 Bangalores inside. Expect a lot of smokes. Whoever's going to have the digi threat has a huge advantage, even more so over the gold Nemesis as the first knock from God of Gotti goes down. Pubsky goes down. Thales, the last player alive. And what an end game there on Stormpoint. So many different facets to try to get that one. And if Bra doesn't skyrocket on the Mobile One leaderboard after that, I don't know what this game is about. Fantastic finish there, Vicky. The way that they were able to manipulate the circle onto Team Glory, that was amazing gameplay.
Also, the beautiful Hail Mary RE45 coming in clutch with the digi threat in combination with the Bangalore smokes. And sometimes if you don't find a digi threat yourself, it's all good. You could find one off of a power weapon that you could take advantage of. That was nice because we got to see Bruh's point of view basically all the way until the very, very end when we saw was Asuras on the other side of where they were waiting when that circle was closing in. So Bruh played that nice because they also were able to finish up that squad right to their south, right next to their neighboring building, and they still took their time rotating to rotate with the circle. Look at this satiability with 2.7k. Okay.
It was charge rifle damage. Come on, Vicky. I mean,
Come on, that's
damage
almost
is
3k.
Damage is damage, all right? That's a fantastic game. More importantly, they were able to pick up a decent amount of kill points. 9 kill points plus 12 for first place. That's a 21-point game. Great job from everybody on this team, but mainly rotating behind Glory, forcing them outside of the building, the utilization of the smokes. You can see why every single legend in this type of meta is viable if you play it correctly. And the Bangalore put down the damage with the charge rifle, force people out of the spot. The way that they were able to have a huge presence inside that building, but they were the last team to go and rotate. That's really key because think about it. If you start rotating in early, you are turning your back towards people. And that's exactly what they were hoping for as Glory made their way around the corner. Sometimes that zone, you get a little bit too nervous about how fast it's going to close. You have to play very patient and kind of scoot your way up with the edge of the zone. That's what they did right there. And then they used all of their utility perfectly. Again, the smokes were used very wisely. The digi threat in conjunction with that was perfectly placed. Again, using the charge rifle to back opponents off and force them into the circle early was very key. And then the execution on that final 3v3.
I'm so glad you highlighted the pacing of when you rotated into that next circle, because like you said, people get nervous. Sometimes people pull the trigger on a skyward dive too early because they're afraid of getting called out of position or getting pinpointed in the air by other squads, and as you should. But in that situation of what Bruh did, you saw the mindset, you saw the process of them thinking about their rotation with the way that they were looking. You could see the way that they looked in front of them. They had a clear door right behind them. They saw the other squads already rotating in front of them. So they're like, okay, let's just rotate behind them. Let's go with the circle. Very smart play right there from Bro. We're going to throw it over to Yeso to see how the game broke down from his point of view.
Bro, there with a nice win to kick off the second half here on Storm Point, and you heard T-Squared talking about it. Really solid kill points, a 21-point performance for Bruh at a very key time. Now 2 games remaining. They put themselves in a position to try and make a run for a top 3, top 5 spot here. So well played there from Bruh. We'll have to see where they shake out on that Mobile 1 leaderboard here in just a few minutes. But before we do that, let's take a look at the Mobile 1 high performance moment here from Game 4. Of course, our first performance on Storm Point here for the day. And it's going to be close to the end of this game. You see, Bruh, they've got triple red Evos and not missing, right? The Catalyst wall goes up. They're still hitting their shots. Digi threats doing work, laying down the rockets on top to ensure that these targets just can't run away. And as Godfire gets taken out, Bruh just continuing to try and gatekeep any of these teams from rotating into safety as this circle closes, and them just not missing shots here with the RE45, setting up these kills and setting Bruh up for an eventual victory, right? The Seer goes down, Kikix getting knocked there, but it doesn't cost Bruh in the end because they just do such a good job of gatekeeping and pressuring these teams as they try to rotate into safety. They never give them a moment to catch their breath, and it's a big reason why they clean up this fight and why they are able to then bounce back from that knock and finish the game with a W. So huge KP here for Bruh, and just a very well played fight that set themselves up for the victory here in game number 4. So well done to Bruh. We, of course, now have to jump just right into that Mobile 1 leaderboard and see where this puts Bruh. We've talked about Americani quite a bit so far today, but they've been, honestly, relatively quiet since that Game 1 victory. They are in 3rd place, tied with Godfire, but Razor still holds on to first to R1C right behind them. Of course, they had a big victory in game number 3, and then Bruh up into the top 8. So they've been very quiet so far today. Only 3 points through the first 3 games, but that big 21-point performance puts them within reach, right? You still need to have 2 really good games to finish the day to jump over the likes of Mike and Ike, Godfire, Americani, and others, but they at least give themselves a shot to make a run here at the end of the day. Aegon by AOC inside that top 10, Ashura's as well, but it's still Razor, 2R1C, and Americani up at the top of our leaderboard as we get ready for game number 5. We will have that game for you and more when we come back.
We are getting right into this one as game number 5 has started. On board with Team Intel with some decent armors, and looks like they're going to be getting the spiders to get some extra loot along the way. Those spiders provide some serious loot. I mean, Vicky, there's a lot of opportunities to get good loot in Storm Point, whether it's getting over towards the armory, getting the spiders, the prowlers. The prowlers just scare me, though. Like you said, Apex could be a horror movie. It's the prowlers for me.
Look, I have arachnophobia, so we could swap real quick here because the spiders absolutely terrify me. And, you know, you could also route them like zombies from Call of Duty, where you could just funnel them in and throw a thermite on the ground, and you could actually clear them out pretty quickly. But it also adds into your Evo shield aside from extra loot, so it's always nice to have if your POI is also nearby. Looks like we did lose a squad in the early part of this game, so some early fighting also getting unleashed in this second to last game for our night.
One of the things that we haven't highlighted yet either, Vicky, is that there is a swap every day in the ranking system. I think that is so cool. You get to play World's Edge and Storm Point just like we have today, and then you get Broken Moon. When I think people have mixed opinions on Broken Moon. I like the map personally. I think that obviously the POIs are fairly close to each other, and it involves a lot of third parties, but every map has third parties, let's be honest. So it just depends on really what you like. I like taking zip lines. I'm a Pathfinder main. As we see, the armory is going down. Is there going to be nades being placed? It's going to be arc stars coming through for Dead and Pride. None are going to be able to connect, but some really nice shots looking down below. One hits for 75. He gets absolutely ripped for a majority of his health. As you can see, the Seer ults are being used. Nice shots coming in from Gyozi as well. He's been absolutely dominating with that Prowler Nemesis combination. The first knock going in on to solidify, and it looks like the Nemesis is back out and in hand, but it's going to be a flank coming in on over towards the roof. Here goes the zone over towards the backhand side. He's not going to have a heat shield. There's not any in competitive play. Looks at his boy Den like, hey, do you have a heat shield? No, I don't either. We don't have him on the map right now, and now it's a 2v1.
Oh man, that's gut-wrenching right there too, because they also noted that there was a purple Evo shield on the other side. It's gonna be Akimbo out here who managed to clean up the rest of that squad who thought that had the advantage. No Name gets eliminated, our second squad in this lobby to go out right now, and they're also gonna be able to get the res currently here too. Even though the circle is closing in on them, they're a little far, but with that Phoenix kit, we should all be good and restabilized here. Man, that Nemesis though is insane, and they were able to get a lot of that extra loot from inside of this armory.
Oh, clenching moment right there as everybody was fairly weak. But they are able to get the medkits off, and the reses are going to happen. Nice job turning that fight around, especially after that amazing knock that happened with the Prowler right off of the rip. Amazing team fight overall between both of those squads. You can see they're both very evenly matched, as Asuris second place in the previous game. They're going to be moving their way around the Prowler camp, trying to find out what the move is going to be for them. Taking some shots over towards the backhand side. They do have the smokes, double smokes for Bangalore if they want to use them, but the double time passive is going to connect, and they're going to be able to scoot away from the enemy team as they make their way forward into another squad. Vicky, it looks like they're trapped in between two teams, and if you're trapped in between two teams, you know that one team's going to want a third party, so this is going to be a very quick fight if they take it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, the whole third party between each and every map. Come on, Tom. We know we need a scapegoat, so we got to say something about those zip lines sometimes. But Asura's out here also making their next move, planning that up ahead. Looking to see if they can try to get on top of the rooftop. That gets cut off. That's quite unfortunate. But they see them also crafting from down below. So if they take this fight quickly, then they can not only walk away with some extra KP, but they could also plan for that third party that will be coming to their south.
Really nice use of the Catalyst Q there to cut off a little bit of line of sight. He was doing that for the line of sight, plus possibly to connect and then make sure that that enemy player can't advance forward. So a lot of utility being used, all of the utility from the Seers coming down. The Bangalore ultimate still in play if God of Gotti wants to use that, but right now they'd just be using it on themselves because the team is trapped inside. You can see from the player outlines exactly where everyone is going to be. God of Gotti elects to go with a smoke over towards the left side, blows the door off directly in front of him. But Catalyst is going to reforge that one. The L-Star in play here with the 3X. That thing absolutely rips, Vicky, if you're able to connect your shots. People still sleep on that. At one time, L-Star was the go-to LMG weapon, and you can see why Tips 2 ends up getting knocked. A 1v1 on the opposite side there. as Thals is trying to stay alive, waiting for his teammate to go and take the angle that they need. 2 knocks coming in, almost 3 if they can finish this player in the air. Pupsky realizes that there is going to be a third party over here as the micro drone does detect where they're located. Great armor, not the vibe here as Aegon by AOC moves in for the third party.
Yeah, this is a third party that we were expecting that they already knew because they were getting shot at earlier on from this squad close to Lightning Rod right now too. So this is great timing by Aegon by AOC, but I'm more confused here to see that this was basically given to them on a silver platter. This was perfect timing for them to move in, and they got the purple extended light mag that they were able to craft up in the replicator. I know that was rotating around today. And look at this Nemesis. We saw what the Nemesis has been able to do. Orioles is going to be able to get on top of the high ground, try to see where that one other player had rotated to, if he's gotten away with the heartbeat sensor, but holding on to this high ground and holding on to this extra loot is just going to set them up.
We know they were trapped in between 2 teams. We talked about how that team fight had to go down, and it was fairly quick, but Aegon is waiting in the wings, trying to collapse on that, and I wouldn't doubt if that was the team that was shooting them in the back to begin with. There's going to be a nice job of getting the enemy Sears shields broken, and that was most likely the team that they were hunting down originally. They're going to take over towards the high ground on the rock to find out if they can maybe re-challenge this one. Pups still has great armor, so this is, while they are at a decent spot positioning wise, a scary situation nonetheless based on the armor situation alone. I mean, it's very tough without a blue armor at the bare minimum. Ideally, all 3 members would have purple here, especially because they won that team fight. They just weren't able to get those boxes, and that would have been huge, Vicky.
Oh no, they're calling the spiders, calling the fumigator. I'm a little scared out here. They're going to not only be able to get some of this extra loot, but it also creates a barrier between them and the chasing squads if they so happen to chase. Razor isn't going to be giving up this high ground so easily, though. They're just staying put here, overlooking the squad that may have been able to restabilize on the low ground at the same time, looking at that gravity cannon. They're also going to start rotating to their right eventually. They're right next to the circle, too, so they could take their sweet time as we see other squads falling in the kill feed. Imp Nation out of this lobby as Aegon went for a full-out rotation over to the other side. They were able to not only restabilize, but looks like there's another squad right in front of them here. Yep, they're going to get taken shots at, and now they're going to be forced to drop down from the high ground.
They don't have a Valkyrie, too, which is very unforgiving on Storm Point, but they've had success with Bangalore in the past. I know Turns has been practicing on Catalyst when we were playing ranked together. That's the legend that he was trying to master because he realizes how much control Catalyst can bring to the table, and it does fit a little bit of his play style. This guy plays every single legend. We've already seen him play 3 different legends in 5 games, so just a Swiss Army knife in terms of what he's able to bring to the table for his squad while actually getting a knock and a thirst on a Protectful. So Glory is going to be down 1 player as we see Babos going in over towards the side, and they're going to get taken out. Turns right back around and lays down some serious shots. It looks like he wants to go for the thirst, tosses his Q out, forces that player back just a little bit. Wall is going to go down as well as Exotic Fantasy ends up getting thirsted, and now the hunt is on for the rest of these players. Sear Q is going to land. Turns now getting on over towards the top and laying down some R301 shots, taking the Valkyrie down to no shields. A nice challenge from Solidify, but it's not going to be enough. Aegon by AOC, game by game, Vicky, they are starting to get momentum.
I don't know why it turns his name is Turns when he should be called Dancing, because he is literally dancing right now on the competition with the way that he's not only moving, but I love his decision making right there too. Whether to just have his teammates just rotate in for him, the Seer ult call as well, that was beautiful. Even trying to make sure that the finish came out on top of that first player that got knocked originally, so the way the Catalyst Wall wouldn't act as an insurance policy to help reset that team. Great plays out here made by Aegon by AOC, and now they have some extra loot at their feet to actually not only just restabilize, but make their rotate into that next circle. Very heavily kitted.
Very clean performance from them. We've seen so much action from their point of view. You would think that there was maybe 12 squads left, but there's still 16 remaining. A very slow game so far as we move into zone number 3. Typically, zone number 4 and zone number 5 is where we see a lot of these squads get eliminated as we take a look at that map overhead and find out exactly where everybody is located. A lot of congestion over towards the south. You can see on that east side too what's happening with Blitz, Pubsky, Thales, and God of Gotti. It looks like Team Razor is going to run into a fight here very shortly with a third party happening over towards the right-hand side of your screen too. In terms of the west side, you do have Mike and Ike with some big gatekeeping potential. You have 3 teams directly in front of them, and then the team rotating over towards the northern side, so potential big kill points coming in for Mike and Ike.
I also want to highlight the positioning that we see from 2R1C with between Haruka, Thorfinn, and Uchaku holding that northern side. They're not in that next circle, but they're pretty clear behind them, and they will only have to worry about one other squad on the north side of where the circle is going to be pulling. So looks like their end game is just to play for that final circle positioning, which will work amazingly into their own team comp with the Catalyst too. Bruh, as well, also trying to figure out an opportunity to find this squad that has made their way through the bunker doors. That may be Aegon by AOC as them now tries to get away. He gets some tick damage with that thermite.
He also runs into the Catalyst queue, so he's going to have to back off. But he is inside of that Seer ultimate, so trying to figure out exactly how they're going to go and play this one. Borealis does have red armor, which is going to be huge for this fight. Nemesis R9, an absolute deadly combo. Needs to heal up his health meds if he wants to get back into this fight, but based on what they're doing right now and having a player on the ropes, they're going to continue to advance, and this team's been playing very aggressive overall. Zone is moving, so now they have to make their decision. Where exactly are they going to go? They're going to have to eventually make their way on over towards the wall, and that's exactly what Force is pinging as they slide down and maybe rotate over towards the right-hand side, hold this mountain, and then figure out what is going to be the safe spot. But what we know about Stormpoint is teams love to get in and gatekeep. That's going to be a Valkyrie Skyward Dive. Actually helps Aegon because now that's one less team that they have to worry about. It's kind of like when you're waiting in line and someone just like bails out on the line. You're like, yes, I'm next.
Yeah, you know, you want to just be able to speed run your way right through and also use it as a distraction. Maybe you could skip another person if you want. And now there's a team right on the high ground, right to their right. Aegon can notice that they see the shots coming from that direction. You can even see the pings. This is an open opportunity to get into this building. I'd be so surprised if nobody's in this building right now. I know it's not in the circle, but some squads do like to hang here early game to make their rotation when they predict where the circle is going to be pulling. See some enemy pings putting down by Orioles, but you also see another squad on the high ground. It does look like it's been already taken up. And as we take a look at Razor actually now on the high ground, this is the building that is already taken up actually. While she's going to be able to try to block some of those doors, but this is a good spot for them to hold on to because they'll basically be coming from the high to low ground for the other squads that are waiting on the other side of this hilltop. We've seen this circle end up on those dome-shaped buildings to the southeast side of where Razor is currently positioned.
And Washi learning along with the rest of us. If you're wondering which Catalyst Q is yours, red is bad, blue is good. Do not take the red pill, you want to take the blue pill. So you can see he took a little bit of damage right there. So useful tips and tricks, have you fragging like a pro. As you can see, Godfire laying down some shots through the smoke, and that's exactly what Nellis wants. Everybody to smoke up so he can just move forward and lay down massive damage with this flatline. The 2-4 connecting. Nobody stands a chance as Godfire starts to move in. The kill lead now going to Nellis as well, and he's not done hunting these players down.
Love it right now, too. He's going to be able to try to chase down these footprints. Nobody could run from him, and he's going to be able to put down the beamage with the R9. If it's not going to be the flatline to do it, the follow-up will, and it looks like actually that player was scooped up, yes, by the other team. That's the team that we were just mentioning earlier, too. It's 2R1C, the squad that was able to scoop them up on the high ground of that roof. They will have also a pretty nice rotation after the fighting by the wall is done here. But 9-2-5ers are also going to get taken out as well as Bro. 10 squads left, and 2R1C are able to also restabilize.
Absolutely shocking they're able to get this one off. A lot of that happening on Hyarka's back because of the fact that he was able to lay down his Seer ultimate, checking the boxes to find out if he could find an armor swap. Uchaku is healthy, so he's going to go for the res, but they do need to heal up their health meds. This Team Razor, who's been phenomenal so far, in first place, finding themselves in a lot of end circles, ends up getting dropped here by Asurus. The aggression coming in as round 4 is closing. This zone is going to eat you alive, so the smokes going down for God of Gotti, checking for some extra loot, finding out if he can get some more meds, but they will have to move. Fortunately, it's a fast slide down the hill, like riding a roller coaster down this thing as they make their way on over towards the wall, smoking out the right-hand side. Thalos is leading the charge right now for his team. Ideally, you would have Pupski ahead so he could try to scout out with that Heartseeker to find out exactly where everyone is going to be located. The wall going down as well as another team gets Shots in over towards the left-hand side. God of Gotti with the L-Star still in hand. I saw someone in the chat saying we should call this thing the W Star. I'm a fan. I know that God of Gotti is as well, but such a tough spot. A team behind you, a team towards your left, multiple teams in front of you, teams on over towards your right-hand side. Doing a great job of just staying alive as long as possible.
Yeah, and with the Catalyst Wall to his left, it's like you really have nowhere else to go. Team Intel, though, out of that entire chaos, and with the Digi threat in the hands of Flinzar, is going to beam that player from the low ground. Asuras finally get taken out. Godfire also able to clean up that one last member now, as Intel have the great high ground, but they're not in that next circle. They're going to have to start rotating soon over to the right side before that team beats them to it, but again, they will have the positional advantage.
I like this play from Flinzar, realizing the situation that with 50 seconds left, they do have to eliminate as many people as possible, get those kill points, get an easier rotation because you don't want to have someone in your backhand side. There goes the Bloodhound scan through the smoke. That's his sign to get out. Jet's locking things down, though. I would love to see Jet push in, even though he does have the charge rifle. They need that extra body here, and instead, Godfire eliminates the angles from the charge rifle, gets aggressive onto Flinzar. I believe Flinzar thought that was a duo. I did too, but somehow, some way, Godfire comes out on top of that fight. You can see the grab lift happening on the back end side of that too. Could be a flank coming in from someone like MJ if Mike and Ike is still alive in this game. And unfortunately for Intel, while they did have a very solid game, they are going to lose out on one player.
I'm honestly surprised. Yeah, I thought there was at least 2 up from that squad originally, because with the charge rifle, we saw that they were able to get at least 1 player knocked, but they were able to restabilize so quick. Now, as Mike and Ike are looking to take this fight, take care of Jami, who gets taken out from the skies by MJ right now, too. Or rather, from Let Me Cook, man. I mean, he is cooking on the other side of the fence line with his own wingman. MJ now moving in from the southern side of this building. He only has the blue evil shield here, too. But from a lot of these other teams thinking that they could just drop down with no way up, they're just going to fall into the hands of Mike and Ike, as they're also forced into the open ground with the other squads holding the high ground.
MJ going absolutely nutty, has one more player to eliminate. The zone doesn't do it to him. Miles was able to live throughout all this and pick up some more kill points and placement points for Razor. It's going to be Godfire, though, over towards the high ground. That's going to be Intel getting dropped. Now Razor has one more player alive. It's a 3 versus 1. Miles with the big wrap play helps secure even more points, and that's huge considering the team that's directly behind him. It's Godfire. Vicky, you talked about them right at the beginning of the show, saying that they were here to prove something. Didn't have the best performance in London. Now looking like they are poised for a win here, making this a very interesting game number 6 once they find Miles.
Basically a makeshift scrims that they want to try to capitalize off of, trying to take another W so that way they can come out on top, and they are your winners for game number 5, our second to last game of the night here too.
What a final game. We're going to be going into the teams in first and second, finished first and second in game number 5. They're only a handful of points separated from each other. I can't wait to look at the Mobile One leaderboard to find out who's in 3rd, 4th, and 5th to see if we're going to have a very tight race going into this final game. But that's how you end it there. Godfire using a lot of that map to their ability. I am stuck on a screen. Is that how my face looks when I'm casting? Oh gosh.
You're very excited. You're loving the charge rifle plays that we're seeing.
Listen, I'm a lot more enjoyable in person, I swear. I don't think I translate very well online. I must have pressed the button in VMix or something like that. I apologize. We're gonna toss this one to Yeso. I'm embarrassed.
You know, it's been a little chilly out here in California. It looks like maybe you need to put a coat on because you're freezing up out there, T-Square. But hang in there. We'll get you back in alongside Vicky for our final game of the day. But let's talk about Game 5 and Godfire grabbing a win, their first of the day. But they've been really consistent. Feels like they've only had one kind of rough game today, and it was game number 1 where we really didn't see them getting a whole lot done. But you've seen them very strong and progressively climbing up that Mobile One leaderboard over the rest of the day. They finally get the W here and close things out in Game 5, and now they're in a fantastic position going into the final game of the day, and they are likely either right on Razor's heels or maybe have taken over first place here. We'll have to see when we check out that leaderboard in just a few moments. But before we do that, let's look at the Mobile One high performance moment here for game number 5 and see just how Godfire were able to get it done here and grab that win that had been escaping them so far today. And it's a little earlier on in the game, and you can see them already in 3rd place there with 41 points and just great shots here. Of course, the flatline continues to be that weapon that can be incredibly powerful in the right player's hands, and already getting that initial knock and just able to clean up. You set up that first kill, you take over kill leader, and then Godfire now have the go button to push in, play aggressively, and they kept that rolling through the rest of the game here. It's just a great initial knock. That 2-4 is so powerful on the flat line. You add that extra range onto this gun, and you can absolutely shred through teams, and Godfire took great advantage of it, picked up some very key points here, and they now have themselves in a wonderful position as a result of that play and the win here in game number 5. Let's take a look, though, at that Mobile One leaderboard, see where Godfire stands, and there it is. So they are right on the heels here of Razor. Razor still playing really, really well today. 59 points through 5 games. Godfire with just 58, a point behind them. But things will be interesting going into this last game. And important to note, talked about it after game number 4, Americani have been largely silent since that game 1 win, right? They have picked up some points. They are at 38 in 6th place, but they really have not had any sort of strong definitive performance since that game 1 win, and they have slowly fallen down that leaderboard. They're still within striking distance to maybe jump into the top 3 and pass up 2R1C and Imp Nation, but it's going to require a solid performance here, as 2R1C will be looking to catch up to Godfire and Razor here at the end of the day. So big moves to be made. Godfire with a very well-timed victory here in game number 5, and they're going to be going into the final game of the day confident and with an opportunity to make a move for first place. We're going to a quick break right now. When we come back, final game of the day, T-Squared will shake off the snow and get going alongside Vicky Kitty. We'll have that for you in a few.
Tyson boneless buffalo bites have that tasty kick of flavor, so they're perfect for any get-together. If there are any left when your guests arrive. Tyson Anytizers Chicken. More kicks of flavor, more smiling snackers, more to love. Tyson.
We're back with the final game. Team Razor in first place. Godfire right on their heels in second, and a handful of other teams still in the running to take first place and that cash. More importantly for our partnered squads, they are fighting to get into Season 7 of Series E. And hey, if you're just joining us, welcome. Got Vicky Kitty on the other line. Apparently, I am a catalyst wall, Vicky.
Look, Tom, you have to share the sentiment, okay? If you're the catalyst wall, then I guess I could be the Cyril. I don't know, but I don't want to be K-Swinney right now. Oh, no!
Oh!
What if that's what happened to Effect, and we were talking all that good stuff earlier? That would have been funny, but no, I think the timing was that it was off of drop. But Asura's looking way better right now, trying to restabilize. Right now, it is so much action happening in Lightning Rod, and it's only been, what, like 30 seconds, maybe less than a minute? 17 squads left are ready for this final game?
And the final game always has a lot of action, because what happens is teams look at the Mobile 1 leaderboard and realize how hyper-aggressive they have to play in order to make their way into the prize money. So expect to see a very fast-paced game, and while that's happening, the teams that are in first and second are just going to let the other teams eliminate each other. That's how it ends up going down, and that's how it's going down for K-Swinney. He almost gets knocked off the map by the lift, and now he's getting griefed by the Flyers. But hey, Apex giveth and Apex taketh. Right there, he gets the purple armor.
Alright, now we get to live another day, and you're going to be able to utilize this replicator, get either the 2x4 side if you want, or the purple light mag here for your Spitfire. But we also get to take a look at the map overhead. We get to see where the circle is going to be moving, and we actually had a very similar circle, except it's pulling more to the north side. Wouldn't be too surprised if we see it over by the no-name building, where you could see that survey beacon to the north of it. Over to the left side of that, in that open water areas where we sometimes see the circle pool, which would be a bloodbath for squads that are potentially running catalysts. Yeah, that wall will be useful to help you out with line of sight, but there isn't any buildings there unless you want to count those 3 buildings, which will inevitably be outside of that final circle.
Love the positioning there for Team Razor. They're really close to where this one's going to end, and they don't have much of a commute to make their way on over towards a God spot. When you look at that 3-leaf clover building over towards the southern side of the zone number 2, it looks like that is the most playable spot. Where the pings are going down, Razor looks like they want to get to that spot almost immediately. Team Intel also flying past Stormcatcher to make their way on over towards the next spot. Godfire right on their heels, rotating from north to south, and it's going to get very interesting as those teams pick which positions that they want to go and lock down. I'm expecting a lot of aggression coming in from this team on your screen. They won game number 1. Yeso mentioned they've slowed down just a little bit since then, and now the pace really going to start to pick up.
Yeah, playing on the outside of the door. The Cyril has been unleashed here too. Americani, though, Natsuki getting shot at a lot. They suppress fire, though, for the rest of the team, as the Hawkins also takes a different off angle, gets on top of the gravity lift. He is beaming out here, not just with the alternate, but with the Havoc, too. All it takes is the alley-oop on the gravity lift.
Nasty play coming in from Hockeys of Team Alliance, playing on Americani right now. Aegon by AOC finds themselves a little bit on the ropes. It's going to be the Thirst coming in from Turns. He's going to toss down a smoke and throw up a couple of grenades to see if they're going to end up connecting. He does connect on a down player. Thermites left and right. How many grenades does this man have?
You would think he's playing Fuse out here too, but he's got the PK and a Dream, but he's also got that purple shotgun bolt, so he could put in the works right now. Aegon by AOC down to 2 players. Force about to make it only 1 player out here. Clinch Enjoyers also trying to restabilize, throwing out that gravity lift to block out that 1 doorway. Tries to bait out the res. He hears it coming. He tries to put in some of the beamage with the car, but he's got the purple extended heavy mag, which is actually putting a dent to what they're trying to do. At least get the finishing blow on that 1 knock player.
Doing a great job as the solo for his team, but it's just not enough. Clinch Enjoyers going out in 15th place. Valiant effort, though, and did basically everything that he could. I love the grab lift over towards the door, trying to bait out the players, stopping the res, almost getting the Thirst. Vicky, you called that perfectly. So much going on right there from Relic's point of view, but just not able to capitalize due to the fact that his teammates unfortunately were eliminated before that. Jet tossing out that Nox gas grenade, gets a little tick here or there. That's going to give positioning away too, as you can see. A lot of damage there onto RJX, but the flank coming through doesn't pay off as Geezy gets dropped, the Mastiff in hand from Jet and Team Intel doing a great job of locking this building down. This is the building we were talking about, Vicky. Is it a little bit too early to get to this spot? Fighting for this spot's going to result in third parties as well.
Absolutely, but if you have a catalyst on your team, at least this early on, it could work out for you and your team, but you want to have all 3 members of your squad alive. You're already going to attract a lot of noise here, too, with this fight. Look at the third party already rolling in. This is what we're worried about sometimes. No Hands gets eliminated out here, too, and now this is where the 4th party is going to be inevitable, too, on the other side. We know that that choke point gets contested very easily, but with the catalyst wall going up, the Caustic also bunkering down, you got double control out here inside this building. I mean, that's the best way to spell out win if I've ever seen one, especially when it comes to the plans that this team wants.
Yeah, and you can see the Catalyst Wall almost making the debut there too. As a lot of players are going to be weak coming outside of the back door and using the stairs. Flinzar gets that first knock with the wingman onto Exotic Fantasy. There goes the Seer Q as well. Kimbo is taking a lot of gas damage. It's actually ticking through the ground there, and by the knockdown shield, Icy with the scout, finishing him off into Kimbo. Now the last player alive. That's all she wrote for Aobabas. PR Demons going out as well. We're already down to 11 squads. We anticipated a very fast-paced game, but Razor wants to get involved. They're trying to take over this God spot, which we've already seen is very difficult with the amount of control that is happening from inside. You have the Mastiff in hand. Washi taking a lot of damage. He's looking for an armor swap, but those have already been swapped from the previous team that made their way through. Jet gets dropped by the Nemesis. There goes another one with the EVA 8 from Washi. Where is Godfire throughout all of this? We know that their rotation was coming through very shortly. Blitz goes inside, switches on over towards the R301. Doesn't mind eating a little bit of gas. Needs to heal throughout all of this as well. Armor swaps on the ground for Miles if he wants to go and use them, and he does. Charge rifle R99 in hand for him, and it looks like things are going to slow down at this building just temporarily, and we can breathe.
Wow, the strong point in that fight was holding onto the building with the caustic barrels, with the catalyst Q as well. You had the wall up originally, and they gave up a lot of that space to try to contest Razor, where they thought that they could come out on top of this other fight if they just wanted to get a little bit more aggressive. Unfortunately for them, Washi was ready, and you talked about Godfire. Where are they in this fight? Well, they were on the outskirts. They were looking at the show. They didn't want to get invited to that party. They decided that they may have wanted to just show up late, or maybe just never in general. So now they're just going to end up rotating on the outside here. You can see Godfire. They see the shots, wondering, oh, you guys want to pick a fight with us? Well, this is their opportunity now to turn the tables.
And that is the solo, the final player coming in from Flinzar. Free kill point there for Godfire. They're going to have to play the edge, though, and they're going to have to do something about Team Razor inside of this God spot. If the zone does pull away from that 3-leaf clover building, then potentially the advantage will go on over towards Godfire. But with Bloodhound, you typically want to play the edge of the zone, just like they have been a majority of the time anyway. He's going to take on over towards the bridge here to see if he can spot anybody inside of the Beasts of the Hunt. Doesn't really see anything, but does spot where Team Razor is going to be located, and now you can see where the zone is going to be pulling. I would love to see the map if production could pull that one up for us to see how many teams remain and where they are, plus where the zone's going to be.
That'd be absolutely huge here, too, with Godfire predicting the circle pulling in this direction. And yes, we see it. It's going to be over Launchpad. And once again, 2R1C calling out where that circle is going to be pulling, playing by the edge of that circle with no other team trying to contest them from right behind. They could also get a clean rotate off to the north side if they want to hold onto that sliver of high ground. But we usually see this circle pull towards the south side rather than towards the north side of Launchpad. So this is a good spot for Godfire to delay, or rather deny this opportunity and space from other teams that are still rocking the Valkyrie with the Skyward Dive.
You can see the fingers there coming out of Launchpad. That is where the zone is most likely going to pull. It could be the middle one. It could be the one over towards the top where Godfire is closest directly on that bridge. But Razor, if they want to move in over towards where Godfire is going to have to play directly below them somehow, and they're going to be stuck between two very good teams. All three of the teams that are playing the zone right now have an opportunity to win this one. Razor in first place, Godfire, they're sitting in second. 2R1C, I believe, was in third or fourth place. As you can see, the rest of these teams coming in over from the west side. That's going to create a lot of kill opportunities for 2R1C. Americani, again, one game number one. Looking to go on a heater here as they've already gotten one team fight win in their pocket, looking for a second.
Also saw on the map the icon for scanning the survey beacon. That was the first time I got to catch that. It was nice. Hierarcha was actually the one that got to scan that. And nice PK shots coming in from Hockeys, coming in from the high ground. Again, off the gravity lift. 1-2, and you're done here. Americani lose out on K-Swinny, but it's fine. The shield swap immediately to get the res. It's contested that are out of this lobby with 9 squads left.
Nasky's confident enough to not have to smoke, and Swinny's going to elect to go for the battery because he has red armor, doesn't want to go and transfer into a purple, which is on the ground. That Nasky is looting into that box, finding some extra R9 ammo. Flatline with the gold mag, R9 with the gold mag as well. 2 team fights now for them. They're going to need a couple more, and they need to start doing process of elimination by finding out where Razor and Godfire are, but unfortunately for them, both of those teams are in a very safe position away from all of the action. Even though Razor has to make the rotation in, it's still round 2. There's plenty of time going into round number 3. I don't know if they have the scan on where the next zone is going to be, but Godfire does have the information that they're looking for as Team Baggin goes out in 9th place. Another team inside of the zone, Aegon by AOC. Again, progressively getting better and better, picking up more and more points. They started off very slow, but they've really picked things up on Storm Point.
Yeah, but Lee, before jumping into this game, they are in 10th overall, so they've been able to pick things up, landing themselves in the number 8th spot with 33 points. They see another team right in front of them in the middle of the rotation, but getting right past this rock, this is the tricky part too, because we know that there's probably already another squad that's holding onto those little dome-shaped buildings that also neighbor that launchpad area. Mike and Ike now getting involved, getting on top of the high ground after seeing that Aegon is going to be able to rotate off to the side corner of that rock. So it gave up a little bit of that high ground positioning, but prioritizing their rotation especially is very important here because Mike and Ike now could go through that choke point where the spiders are, and there could be met with the squads that are already holding that launchpad area, like we've already seen with Godfire holding on to that walkway. Imp Nation also seeing the squad rotating off to the other side of the rock. That's going to be Aegon with their rotation. Puts down the smoke so that way they can get out of their line of sight. Wondering here, is Static playing with the Rampart, what the game plan is, as Aegon want to try to capitalize off this fight after getting that knock.
Yeah, big knock. The original triple take burst looked solid, but then they realize how split the players on this team are, and they're going to go and capitalize on that 10 times out of 10. Speaking of the Nemesis using energy ammo, I don't think Turns is going to have any problem here, Vicky, with this Havoc.
And he's got the turbo. Oh, he is actually in the kitchen right now. He is cooking up a storm, and he also has the gold Evo shield, so he could restabilize very quickly. I like this loadout. I like what we're seeing right now from Turns, and he also loves what he's seeing on this Rampart, who is literally one right now. Tosses out the smoke grenade in their direction. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide currently, and they're just going to be able to try to fully send it on this duo.
Turns, gets aggressive, eats the thermite, doesn't matter. Imp Nation goes out with a pretty solid performance. They go out in 8th overall. Force is going to take over that kill lead. That's the second time we've seen a player from Aegon take over that kill lead out of the 6 games. It was Turns originally on the Bangalore in game number 3, fighting things out as a solo, but now things are a little bit dicey. They avoid the Valkyrie missile swarm. It's going to be Team Bruh over towards the high ground with the charge rifle, just griefing as much as possible. This is what we saw in the previous game that they ended up winning. I think it was game number 4. Some really fantastic play coming in from the charge rifle. 2,700 damage overall, and you can see why it just puts in some serious work, especially when teams are flying in the air. Smart job from everybody on Aegon AOC to split. Nothing's worse than when you're weak and everybody is clumped up. You have to split immediately, ping where your teammates are going to go. That's what they did. Unfortunately for Americani, they get dropped, and we saw someone in the chat, I think it was Apex Comps, talking about who does he cheer for. Well, now your decision just got a little bit easier for you as Americani. Great performance overall, going out in 7th place. Team Bruh is on the hunt, Vicky. Who are they looking for? It's still Aegon by AOC.
Yeah, they scattered like ants right here, and you see the charge rifle trying to grief Bruh, getting them a little taste of their own medicine. Of course, after what you mentioned before, State Ability basically finished that one game that they won with over 3k damage with that charge rifle. Very impressive out here, too, with the fact that they were able to not only close in the gap on this squad, but get some extra loot while they were actually in the middle of that rotate. And, you know, gotta go for some tactical crouching, gotta send a message sometimes on your final game, have some fun with it, but out of the line of sight of Godfire, who is holding on to probably the best spot that you could be holding on to right now for this final circle.
Godfire predicted this one early and may be rewarded with a W here and potentially a first place, Vicky, if they can lock things down. Not a lot of charge rifle ammo here for Nellis. He most likely found this up there to begin with. I think that's exactly what happened because there's always a sniper on top of this bridge. He has the scout as the secondary but wants to conserve his light ammo, so a genius play utilizing the map to his advantage. Also only 176 away from getting this red armor, so that is the goal right now for Nellis. Is you can see where the rest of the players are going to be located. A team on top of the zip line. Scan's going to happen directly below him. Can't get you baited by that thinking that's just a duo. You don't know if the scan didn't hit the third player, so no reason to ever give up this position on top of the bridge. It's definitely a top 3 position, potentially game-winning spot as pings happen over towards where the respawn is too. So a lot of action to begin with, but now that we're down to the nitty-gritty and where a majority of the points are made, you can definitely expect this to slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, the calm before the storm right now with 5 squads left. Godfire on the high ground. They know where 2 squads are right now. They know that there's a squad off to their side. They know that there's a squad to their north that's out of their line of sight. The weapon swaps and the skyward dive. Oh, they tried and they saw that Godfire was already there. Imagine the jump they would have had on them if they were all just hiding inside of this building. Why would they do that? But also would have been absolutely funny.
Also, it could be scary, though, because MJ's playing Horizon, so if they group inside of that door, one Horizon ult is going to end up sucking the Catalyst wall as well, and then Arcstar comes through, end up maybe griefing their game if they huddle in there. I've had a couple of times where I've hid in there before, Vicky, and Maggie balled my teammates, actually, so in the back of the head, and completely lost the game for us.
Look, she got the strike, okay? She thought she was cooking here too with the way that we're also seeing some of these players position themselves. Like, bruh, jumping all the way down. They got that crack. They get that knock. They're going to finish off Orphan here. It's going to be MJ and Wizard Coin off to the other side, though. In the line of sight, though, is Kix, who doesn't have the ability to jetpack his way over the other side of the rock. Sitting like a duck out in the open.
Nice
Stateability
shots.
also, yes, I love those shots from the car right there, but he's got 14 bullets of heavy. Yeah, he can swap over to the light ammo real quick here, but is it going to be enough? No, he's only got 60. At least a little bit to work with. Wondering if he could get a weapon swap going here, if Vem could give him some suppressed fire.
And in the next update, the car is going to also accept energy ammo as Team Razor goes out in 5th place. That's going to open the door for Godfire, as Godfire was the team to eliminate them. So that is huge. Godfire takes over 1st place just based off that alone. Those 3 extra kill points plus the placements, and they're not done yet. Them gets dropped. Stateability ends up taking down 1 player, but the thirst happens. It's the beast of the hunt through the smoke. The res is going down as well because he understands he has his teammate directly in front of him, but they haven't checked their backhand side. Mike and Ike with the ult. It's MJ flying in there, and that's exactly what Team Mike and Ike was waiting for. They take over the kill lead, and MJ starting to heat up.
The Arcstar plays coming in here too. Mike and Ike as a full 3-man are now rolling in on top of this duo. Oh, he's trying to go for the clips. He's trying to get these nice little tricky Kraber shots. It's fine. He gets the hip fire shot, and they take our final game. It's going to be Mike and Ike.
And Mike and Ike was not that far behind the Mobile 1 leaderboard, so I'm not sure where that's going to move them up in the standings.
Yeah.
But when you look at the accumulative leaderboard, when we talk about all of our partnered squads, Mike and Ike keeping that much closer to Team Razor is a great sign for them. Plus, always picking up a dub, especially a final game dub, is huge for them. What a final moment there on Storm Point. All of our top teams there in that top 6 area kept that extremely close.
Absolutely. Mike and Ike also the only team tonight that was able to walk away with 2 dubs. They also won game number 2 on World's Edge, and they took our final game here on Storm Point for game number 6. I believe they were sitting in 5th overall before that final game. So let's see how that's going to fare against Godfire, 2R1C, who is also holding that north side of that final circle, and Razor.
Yeah, they had a lot of points to make up in between there. There was a big fall off once you got to that 3rd and 4th area, but hey, fortunately for us, we don't have to do the math. That's going to be up to the admins. Vicky, it was an absolute blast casting with you. Welcome back to Series Z. It's been a while. Hopefully, we'll see you very shortly. For the rest of you, thanks for watching, and we're going to toss this one on over to Yeso.
Got a lot of love for those two, Vicky Kitty and T Squared, a couple of the best in the business, and it's always a pleasure to have them here on Series Z because, of course, They crushed it. 6 great games, 6 great calls from those two. So thank you so much to both of you. In the end, it's Mike and I grabbing their second win of the day, the only team to grab 2 victories here today. I don't know that it was enough for them to pass up Razor and Godfire, who had that nice little cushion between themselves and the rest of the lobby going into that final game of the day. But Mike and I might have just jumped up into that top 3 with a stellar performance to close things out. Let's take a look, though, at our Mobile One high performance moment here for game number 6, and it's going to be the finish here. Godfire going in aggressively, Razor going out. They keep it rolling here today. They keep that consistency going. But Godfire might have passed them up. We'll have to check that Mobile One leaderboard. But they want to go aggro here. They want to step forward. And as 2R1C goes out, Godfire loses 1 member. And that is part of what spells the opening here for Mike and Ike to come in, and they go for the res here, right? The Catalyst wall comes through. You see that Horizon ultimate there setting things up, and MJ and co wipe out Godfire. They take advantage of that 1 player being down to easily clean up the squad, and then they just come in for the finish. Kraber in hand here. MJ, as you heard T-Squared saying, going for the clip, trying to get fancy with it, looking for the wall hops, looking for the tap strafes to close things out. And in the end, Mike and I do take the win, and they finish things off with that second W. But the big question is, where did they end on that leaderboard? How did they close things out? Let's check that out. Mobile One leaderboard here to wrap up the day. And Mike and Ike get it done getting into the top 3. They hit 60 points with those 2 Ws. Razor keep it rolling, but unfortunately, right at the finish line, they falter. They did have still a solid game there, but Godfire just getting better and better as the day goes on. They catch up and ultimately pass Razor here in game number 6. They take the win with 71 points. So congratulations to Godfire. Big W there for the squad. You heard Vicky at the top of the day, excited seeing that Brazilian representation. I'm a big fan of Brazilian esports. I've been following it for years and love seeing Godfire come in here and compete today and show up strong in this lobby. And of course, Razor, hats off to them. One of the best performances we've seen from that team all season long. So well done, gents. That's going to do it for us here tonight, folks. Of course, the week continues. Guilty Gear Strive tomorrow. Multiverse is on Friday. Plenty of fun in the future, so we hope you'll be around for that. Both of those broadcasts, of course, starting at 4 p.m. Pacific time right here at twitch.tv/esports arena. I'll be here to host it all for all of you, so I hope you will join us on those days. But for tonight, for myself, and for the entire live broadcast crew and everybody here at Esports Arena, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.